My sister is severely autistic, requiring constant attention and unable to care for herself. I have been hating her for a long time. Am I the asshole? The title makes me sound horrible, but hear me out. My sister is severely autistic. She requires attention almost 24/7 and cannot be left alone. She is nonverbal and cannot take care of herself at all. Despite the fact that she is only 12, she is extremely destructive and violent and destroys anything she gets her hands on. I hate her. That should be wrong to say, but it doesn't feel like it. I was only 6 years old when she was born, and since then I've never solely had my parents' attention. Even since I can remember, the world has revolved around her. I was moved out of my room into the basement at 7 because she needed to be in the room next to my parents. All of my toys as a child were destroyed by her, and my parents simply ignored me when I complained. Even when I was 14 and she destroyed a Mac my school gave me, I was in the wrong. Along with this, I am expected to take care of her and drop everything I do for her. I can never make plans with a friend because my parents expect me to be there if they need me to take care of her. Even when I do somehow get time to myself, I'm required to leave if they need me. If I do not, then I am punished. The recent example of this is when I went to see the new Spider-Man movie, and was grounded because I turned my phone off in the theater. It seems as if I am nothing more than a slave to them, and anything involving her simply overshadows me. This last week I was chosen to give a speech at a school event. I was so excited, and my parents promised to be there, but they never showed and claimed it was because of my sister. Anytime anything like this happens for me, they are too busy with her. I've held this in for so long, and it finally spilled out today. While talking about colleges with my father, he joked that I should get a degree that pays well so when they're gone I can take care of my sister. I don't know why, but this caused me to break down. I cried and screamed about how it was always about her. I'm nothing more than a caretaker to them, that they always make it about her, and that I'm expected to be her slave for the rest of my life. I've locked myself in my room since then, and my parents have not come to check on me. Am I an asshole here? Edit. Wow, thank you for all the support and love that you guys have given me. I never expected this post to reach the popularity it did. Thank you all. After thinking about it for these past few hours, you are right that I don't despise my sister. It's not her fault that she was born the way she is. My parents came to talk to me a while after my breakdown, but I was unable to bring myself to talk to them and only cried and asked them to leave. They have made arrangements with my grandfather for me to stay with him for the time being, and am getting ready to go to his house. My parents want to talk to me, but we have decided it's best I leave for now to have some space and time to collect myself. We will be sitting down and talking later this week about this issue. Thank you all again for the love and support through this. I'll send an update your guys' way later this week if people are interested. Relevant comments. Comment 1 NTA. These are perfectly legitimate and understandable feelings. You have done nothing to sign up for taking care of another human being. It's not like she's your kid, and that was wrong of your dad to joke about, because it sounds like he probably is really thinking along those lines. Be honest with your parents about how you feel. Make clear that it's insane that you're expected to be a full-time babysitter, grounded for no phone in a theater. That's fucking bullshit. Comment 2, NTA. Kid, I hope you go to college far away from home. Later in life, make sure your parents understand that you won't be taking responsibility, so they better have care and funding in place. Comment 3, if you can, go to college far away. Time away and on your own to be just you will be good for you. Because I think your dad was only half joking. At some point you will want to have a conversation about how they need to plan for the care of your sister in the future. And make it clear that it is not you, especially if you feel the same way as you do now. I'm really sorry your parents didn't handle this better, and I hope that one day your anger moves away from your sister. Comment 4, this is a parent problem, not a sister problem. I am a parent of one autistic child and one neurotypical child. And I will tell you that we would never treat our NT child like his role is to take care of his sister. If she ruins his stuff, we replace it. We have also given him some separate space, with a lock, so that we can prevent her getting into his stuff. Now if he leaves it out, that's another story, but we try our best. Are there ways in which having a sister with a disability still might suck for him? Of course. We're a family, and what impacts one tends to impact us all. But we try to mitigate that, and at least sympathize when we can't. We also make sure that he benefits in whatever ways we can. Like the fact that he has never had to wait in a long line at an amusement park because of her skipping the line pass. It sounds like your parents haven't done any of this, and have in fact, made everything worse for you. That is not your sister's fault. She can't help who she is, and at only 12, she is still learning and growing, and you may still have a great relationship once you're both adults. Your parents, on the other hand, should have done better by you. The brunt of your anger belongs to them. Update. Well, since that day I made the post, I've been staying with my grandfather. The week's been honestly a huge change for me, for better and for worse, but I'll try to run it down. I started by telling my grandpa the story of why I broke down the way I did, and to be honest, he seemed horrified. No one in my family knew my parents were using me as essentially a free care service for my sister. My grandpa told me some things that I don't feel comfortable repeating here, but in essence my sister is supposed to be getting care from a professional and that my parents were ignoring that. Along with this, I was not supposed to be caring for her at all with her mental state, as apparently she is a danger to herself and others. With everything else I told him, along with stuff like the movie Indecent, he was really mad and told me to not contact my parents without him there. He pretty much told me that he would be meeting with my parents beforehand and that he was going to be there when I sat down with them. It didn't end here either. The rest of the week consisted of other family checking in on me and telling me things my parents hid from me. This included the fact that my parents have been taking money from the family to fund a caretaker that doesn't exist. Suffice to say, this week has been rough. But the upside is that even through all this, my extended family has been giving me more love than I've felt in a while. My grandfather spent this last week making up for the time I've lost, encouraging me to spend time with friends and do things I want to do. My aunts and uncles have also been helping me through the week. Well, Saturday night I sat down with my parents to talk. It went badly, to say the least. They came clean to me about everything. They told me things I will not repeat here. But they did not apologize. My parents still claim that I somehow owed my sister my time. My father even saying, "You were put here to be her caretaker." I won't lie and say I was composed. After everything I learned, I confronted them on the fact that my sister needed a caretaker, the money my dad was taking from his sister, and a few other things. They denied it or made excuses. And in the end, we ended off in a worse place than before. Today will be my last time talking to them for a while. After talking with my grandfather and uncle last night, I'm not going back. Later today, I'm going there and picking up my stuff and moving in with my grandfather. When I graduate high school, I'm planning on leaving the state to go to school. My aunt has told me that the money she was sending my dad will instead be coming to me from now on. My parents have called me twice since Saturday. Neither of them were to apologize and only ask when I was coming home. I won't be going back to them. Right now I still feel pretty uneasy about everything, but I feel like that will pass. The rest of my family is showing their support to me, and honestly, it feels great. But in the end, I lost my parents. Over all of this, I've learned something that I wished I saw earlier. I don't hate my sister. In fact, I love her with all my heart. I should never have projected my hate onto her. That was wrong, and someday I hope to make up for it. But for now I need to leave. So here's my update. Thanks again for the support my original post got. I really appreciate everyone who took the time to comment or show me support. Thank you. Edit. Thank you all so much. I wish I could respond to every single one of you, but my lunch only lasts so long. I'll update tonight how the move out went, but until then, thank you all. I want to say that your support has been amazing and your kindness means more to me than anyone could ever imagine. Late edit. Wow, I never imagined my story would reach the popularity it did. I know it's kinda cliche and I've said it 1,000 times, but thank you all. We just got back from moving my things out of my parents' house. Everything I wanted to take my grandpa and uncle helped move, and it's at my grandpa's house now. I have my birth certificate, social security card, and every other document and record I could think of. My parents were quiet the whole time I was there. Shortly after I arrived, my dad left with my sister and my mom only hovered over us silently as I moved. It took a while, but as we left she broke down and told me she loved me and would miss me. I hugged her and said goodbye, and that was it. Even now I sit here and think if she really meant it. After this whole week of her not saying anything, she waited till the end. I hope she meant it. Right now though, I think I just need to look ahead. Maybe one day me and my parents can reconnect. I hope so. Thank you all for the advice and love. It's been amazing, and I'm glad that through this experience I at least got some positive out of this mess. Will I come back? I don't know. If something happens and you guys still want an update, I'll maybe come around again. But for now I'm going to move on. For all those out there who shared their stories with me, thank you, and I hope to see you on the other side. See you, Space Cowboy. Relevant comments. Comment 1, OP's grandfather is a saint. Comment 2, the sad thing is that he should have had to be as kind and good as he was. The parents were disgusting people who robbed someone of the necessary childhood experiences and felt no remorse for it. Comment 3. Yeah, I feel really bad for OP. It broke my heart when he talked about how all his toys got wrecked and no one cared. Another angle that I'm not seeing being discussed, OP's sister is being robbed too. If the parents were told she needs a caretaker, then she needs a caretaker. Maybe she would be able to make some improvements if she was working with a professional. I get that she's low functioning, but it's possible that she can sense the animosity OP was beginning to feel toward her, which is not his fault. Which could cause her to lash out more? IDK I have a severely autistic cousin, he is verbal and doesn't need 24/7 supervision though, and he has a loving family who is always there for him. I wonder how lost he would be without that support system. OP's parents obviously don't care about their autistic daughter. If they did, they wouldn't push her off on a teenage brother who obviously isn't capable of handling that responsibility, or use her to scam their family. I just hope she will be okay. What are the parents going to do with her now that their free babysitter and money are gone? Are they going to pay for a professional caretaker themselves, or just neglect her? OP, if you see this is not a guilt trip, but someone in your family should keep tabs on what's going on with your sister. It sounds like she may be better off in an institution than with parents who obviously can't or aren't willing to give her the care she needs. Comment 4. I'm glad your other family is coming through for you, OP. I strongly suggest you still get a therapist to help you unpack the years of harm your parents did to you. Also, yay Grandpa, he sounds awesome. Good luck, OP. However, I would wait until you enter a college university to begin seeing a therapist. This way, 1. You will be guaranteed confidentiality as an 18-year-old, 2. You will likely be covered under a student plan that you pay for with tuition that will make therapy free, and 3. You'll have time to compose yourself when you're alone and really be able to sort out your feelings. Comment 5. I understand your predicament, for I also come from a similar situation. My older brother has autism spectrum disorder, and is on the low end of the scale. My parents, since I was about 7 years old, always stressed that I needed to take care of him and allow him to live with me once I was older despite the 4-year age difference, alongside his physically and sexually abusive tendencies towards me, and only me, out of our family of 5. Now, I am 20 years old. Since I was 18, my parents have expected me to pay for items he desires, read for him, clean for him, pretty much anything you could think of despite me being a college student with many chronic illnesses that was being abused by him since I was 11. Despite everything he has done, I do not hate him or his disability. Rather, I hate that my parents have enforced that his abusive behavior was not morally incorrect, thus insisting to him that I was wrong and hated him for his disability. No matter how much I expressed to him that his behavior was wrong and that I did not resent his disability, as I am severely disabled myself, he never listened or corrected his behavior until I began to distance myself from him at all available chances at 19 years old. He is my brother and he needs help, but I cannot be the one to give it to him because I deserve better than the life I was provided by our parents and him. I plan on moving out very soon. I hope things get better for you soon, and that you are able to reconcile with your sister as you desire without parental interference. Good luck, OP. MAGA dad and daughter, a relationship broken by political differences. Am I the asshole for not forgiving my dad after the birthday argument? Original, Dad's POV, May 10, 2023. Am I the asshole? My daughter doesn't want me in her life because of our differences in political opinions. I, 65, have 2 daughters, Alicia, 35, and Mary, 32. I have been divorced from their mother since the girls were in middle school and have been with my current partner Janice for 15 years, but we are not married. My girls were living with me full time since they were in high school until they each moved out. I'll get right to it. My girls have opposing political views from Janice and I. This came to a head several years ago. Things had been strained for a while and finally blew up. The girls were over for Christmas and Mary said some things that upset Janice and Mary walked out. Alicia stayed, but it was awkward the rest of the day. Janice and I decided not to let Mary visit anymore, but I still saw her regularly on my own or with Alicia. A year or so after that, I took Alicia out for breakfast on her birthday. We had decided not to talk about politics anymore because we don't get along. Well, there was something upsetting on the TV and the restaurant was empty except for us and another couple, and I made a comment about it and Alicia just started ranting. She wouldn't stop even when I told her to because she said I was the one who brought it up. The man at the other table agreed with me and started getting upset, saying what Alicia was saying was stupid and that she should shut up. I agreed with him. Yet another day ruined, I guess, so I just walked out. I told her happy birthday before I left. She was very upset that I abandoned her with a stranger that was upset with her, but all she had to do was stop talking and that never would have happened. She said she felt unsafe and that I shouldn't have just left her there. And maybe I shouldn't have, but she also needs to take responsibility for her part in this. Now she barely speaks to me and I only see her on special occasions like birthdays or Father's Day. And never at either of our houses. She moved and hasn't told me where. It is somewhere local though. I see Mary more often but she doesn't want to get involved with me and Alicia's issues. Ida for not taking total responsibility for what happened. Relevant comment. We could share the same political beliefs and I would agree with your daughter. You broke the agreement and made a comment you knew she wouldn't agree with. Then you got mad when she responded to the comment, then you agreed with a stranger and escalated the issue. He told her to shut up and she was talking stupid. No one says that in a calm manner. That is scary for a woman to be addressed like that by a man. After all of that, you left her, straight up left her with some stranger who was making comments about her. No wonder she felt unsafe. Her safety is more important than a disagreement. Bonus comment from the poster, I think it gives a better sense of his beliefs. I'm not racist and I think people should have bodily autonomy. For instance, no one should be forced to get any vaccine they don't want to. Original, daughter's POV, now deleted but preserved in a comment. May 12, 2023. I'm the daughter of a political dad. I have receipts, I'm Alicia. Those aren't our real names, thankfully. There are screenshots of 2 conversations with him in my profile. One from the day of this incident in 2018, and one Facebook Messenger conversation from 2020. I have more and may post them but for now that should be enough. Yes, I made a throwaway for this, I don't want it attached to my main. My friend actually saw the post first and told me about it and I considered for a while whether or not I should respond. It also took me a minute to find the conversations. I did want to address some things because even though the post was lacking details, most of the comments I was able to read were spot on, and this was very validating for me. As most of you guessed, yes, he is a Republican Trump supporter and I'm progressive. And yes, we are in the US. This was pre-COVID, he came out as an anti-vaxxer during the pandemic. Janice is horrible lol. On the outside she seems sorta okay but she's all about manipulation and control. If you aren't wholly grateful for every little thing she does she employs guilt trips. She's definitely the respect your elders type. There's more to the story there but I'm not going into it. We used to all have family dinners at their house once or twice a month. The atmosphere had been strained for a while because Dad and Janice didn't want Mary and I to comment about politics. They were allowed to say anything they wanted but we weren't allowed to respond. We were told it was disrespectful to disagree with them in their own home. I thought it was very hypocritical and it pissed me off. When I lived with them I never really started my opinions much out loud because I wanted to keep the peace. Because I had to live there. As I got older and moved out I stopped being quiet about it and I think it shocked them. I was tired of listening to racist misogynistic nonsense and not saying anything about it. I was civil about it, I didn't name call or make it personal. Them on the other hand is a different story. Apparently I'm a liberal extremist, according to my dad who said that to my face. Because I believe in civil rights and equal rights for everyone. Okay, that day at Christmas my sister and I were talking about climate change amongst ourselves and they butted into the conversation and it exploded from there. We weren't talking to them at all, and they started being passive-aggressive and accusing us of thinking they were stupid, which neither of us said. My sister had apparently had enough of it all and walked out. She was never invited over again. I continued to visit but I too was eventually told I wasn't going to be invited again. The topic on TV in the cafe was about whichever mass shooting or police shooting had just unfolded at the time. I don't remember specifically. I also don't remember the exact wording of my dad's comment, but it was something about guns and/or minorities. My comments in response were about gun control and statistically the demographic of most mass shooters, white men, sorry not sorry, and he as a white man took offense to that. So did the other boomer white man at the table next to us. I didn't care, I wouldn't have started it but I was sick of him getting in his little comments and thinking I wouldn't say anything back because we agreed not to talk about things like that. After my dad's initial snide comment and I started listing statistics, my dad told me to stop talking. I said why? I'm not ashamed of anything I'm saying. Neither of us were being loud by the way, it was a private conversation at a normal speaking volume. At that point the other man sitting with his wife said loudly, well I'd like her to shut up, and started saying things about how what I was saying was stupid. I sat there in shock and just as I was about to collect myself and tell him to fuck off my dad turned around to him and said, you know what sir, I agree with you, which put me into shock again. I literally could not believe that just happened. My dad then stood up, muttered happy birthday at me and walked out. The man continued to spout angry nonsense in my direction while his wife tried to calm him down, and I tried to think about how fast I could get to the police station next door if he tried something. I sat there for a few minutes in shock and his wife came over to me and started apologizing profusely. I eventually left too and tried not to cry on my way home. Not that it matters a whole bunch, but we drove there separately and had paid for our food already. So he didn't leave me without a way home and didn't stick me with the bill. Ever since I started speaking up about my opinions, my dad has been very patronizing and condescending. It's funny though, because even then at first when we'd debate something we would be civil and I could get him to listen to me. I even got him to indirectly admit that he's pro-choice once during a conversation. He doesn't identify as that, but when we spoke logically and reasonably about it, he admitted that at least in some situations abortion should be allowed. I said, congratulations, that makes you pro-choice. And he didn't have anything to say to that, lol. I think it's the buzzwords and the faux news that's really tripped him up, and it's unfortunate. He and Janice live very much in their own little fantasy land and don't like being reminded that it isn't real. They've stopped going to family events partly because of this and partly because of Janice's medical condition. And I think partly because no one likes her. I already turned off messages and I don't really want to be responding to a bunch of comments. I might turn them off altogether at some point if that's an option, but we'll see how this goes. This has already gotten way more attention than I'm comfy with, but I didn't want to leave everyone hanging. There were some really insightful comments that gleaned a lot of truth without knowing the full situation, so I wanted to give some closure. And also to say thanks, this has helped me a lot. As for what I'm going to do about it in real life, probably nothing, because I'm pretty much done trying to do anything but keep up a surface-level relationship. Once in a while he tells my sister he misses me, as if he doesn't understand what happened. We've had so many conversations about this that if he doesn't get it by now he never will, and I'm done trying. If you're wondering why I don't just cut him out completely, I'm not really sure myself. I guess I just don't have it in me right now. OP's receipts. Transcript, dated November 3, 2018. OP, thanks for leaving me there alone with that potentially violent guy. OP, I was just scared, and you just left. OP, make no mistake though, I will not be silent, I will be scared and loud. OP, remember how mom used to send us to school in tears? That's how I feel now. OP, you've become really good at breaking my heart. OP, I told you I'd been censored, harassed and censored in the past and you didn't say anything close to I'm sorry that happened to you. OP, I guess you don't care. I'm sorry you don't want to have a relationship with me because we don't agree on things. Dad, if you still want to talk, it will be in person and in private. OP. G, censored name. I'm sorry you feel like that. I didn't mean to make you feel sad or abandoned. Is that what you meant? OP. Right, well I get that you're at work and this isn't the best time. So you just let me know when you're ready to treat me like a human. 6:38 p.m. Dad. Do you want to talk? OP. Not tonight. Transcript, dated October 28, 2020. Dad. You can reach out too. I haven't heard from you, so I figured you wanted space for whatever reason. OP. I want space. What's there even to say? I'm not allowed at your house, you don't want to come to mine. You actively avoid family gatherings. You abandoned me on my birthday in a public place with a strange man who was yelling at me after you took his side a few years ago. That was what made me start seeing a therapist. BTW. You bring up hypothetical situations where we'd be on the opposite sides of a hypothetical civil war for no other reason than to divide us, I guess. You've made it very clear that your politics are more important to you than I am. I get the very clear impression that you don't want me in your life, so I'm not trying to be anymore. Dad. So you're good as is? OP. If that's going to be your response to all of that, yeah. Dad. Okay. OP. Guess that means you're good with it too. Dad. I'm not going to push you into anything you're not good with. OP. Right, that fact that this was your only response to everything I just said means it's all true, and why would I want to pursue anything with someone who thinks politics are more important than their own daughter? Someone who betrays her and then abandons her in a scary situation. Dad. Sad it's come to this. You want to talk, you can call. It's up to you. OP. Sad indeed. I bought a house. BTW, and I'm moving on. Censored. Not that I think you'd ever try to visit me, but just in case I won't live there anymore. Dad. So do you want to talk or not? OP. Do you? Dad. I'm always open to conversation. OP. Tell me now if you stand by anything you've said or done, 'cause if so I don't see the point in talking about it. Dad. So you don't take responsibility for anything? OP. Ha ha ha, do I take responsibility for you abandoning me? No. For not being allowed at your house? The reason being because you and Redacted wanted to talk about politics but wanted to prevent me from saying anything. No. For you not wanting to come to my house? No. For you avoiding family gatherings in general? No. For you loving your politics more than me? No. Do I take responsibility for having my own opinions and deciding that I won't stay silent anymore? Sure. But you didn't like that. You liked it better when I just shut up and you could say whatever you wanted. It's never going back to that. If you do or say something shitty, I'm going to call you out on it and hold you accountable. Those were some really shitty things you did to me, and no matter what you think I did to deserve it, I absolutely did not deserve it, and you're not going to convince me otherwise. Dad. Wow. Dad. Well, congratulations on your house, and I really do hope things go your way. I hope you continue to be well. OP. Same to you. New update. Daughter still. Jules. 20, 20, 23. Check my profile for the history. But basically I found a post from my dad complaining that I barely talked to him and posted here to give the missing reasons. I'm deciding to go no contact with him because of texts he sent me this morning. Screenshots in my profile. It speaks for itself, but the summary is he sent me a photo of him and Janice meeting Mike Pence, which that's fine by itself, I don't care, but he's decided to rub it in my face knowing I don't want to hear about it. Then he tried to gaslight me by saying he sent it to honor Mike Pence's wishes, and that it's a positive message. I told him not to contact me anymore. I don't need this nonsense in my life. Honestly, it's thanks to these posts and Reddit that the decision to cut contact was so clear to me, but I have to admit I'm shaking as I write this. It's obviously not the outcome that anyone wanted. OP's Receipts. Part 2. Transcript. Dated July 20th, 2023. Dad. Image of 3 adults posing for a picture. Former Vice President of the United States. Mike Pence is in the middle. The 2 adults on either side of him have their faces censored and are labeled as Dad and Janice. Dad. Mike said to say hello and best wishes to my children. OP, I need you to tell me why you sent me that. Dad. Honoring the man's wishes. OP, did you think at all about how I would react to it? Dad. To a positive message. Dad. I guess that won't happen again. OP, it won't, but not for the reason you think. You know we don't agree on politics. That's what sparked the incident that led me to go low contact with you. I've told you how that day made me feel, but you never understood. This proves that at the very least you still don't understand. It's childish. I was willing to keep up some sort of relationship with you as long as you didn't do anything malicious, but you just can't help yourself. You sent this knowing full well that I would not like it. Then you tried gaslighting me about it being for his wishes or that it's a positive message. I can't do this anymore. I don't need someone in my life just trying to get a rise out of me, especially my own family. Do not contact me anymore. I left because my husband almost killed our newborn son by not paying attention. My young daughter tried to save her brother and got hurt. I'm 25, and have been with my husband, 30, since 2018. We have a 3-year-old girl and a newborn boy. But tonight, things almost took a turn for the worse. My husband has always had trouble paying attention, but I never thought it would come to this. Our neighborhood is weirdly laid out, with cars zooming by at crazy speeds at all hours of the day. I was folding clothes when I heard our toddler screaming, "Dad, help!" That tone made me drop everything and sprint outside. What I saw made my blood run cold, our newborn in his stroller, careening towards the busy street. I screamed and ran to him, barely stopping the stroller in time. My baby girl's hands and knees were scratched up because she tripped trying to run after the stroller. I snatched up my baby, heart pounding, and scanned for my husband. He wasn't watching. He was chatting with neighbors, completely oblivious. The anger I felt was unlike anything I've ever experienced. I stormed up to him, shouting in disbelief. He looked shocked at first, then realized what almost happened. The apologies and tears came pouring out, but it was too late. I couldn't wrap my head around how he could be so careless, so blind to our toddler's screams and the stroller rolling away. I packed up the kids and left, staying with my parents. They're on my side, but my husband keeps texting, begging forgiveness, calling it an honest mistake. But I can't shake the terror of almost losing my baby because he couldn't focus for a single second. My baby girl got hurt in the process because he couldn't pay attention. I almost lost my son because he couldn't pay attention. I can't stop crying. I feel so guilty. I wish this all never happened. Sorry it's short. I just want to hold my babies and I can't stop shaking every time I think about it. What if I was just 1 second late? Would I have been planning a funeral? And the reason I left the house instead of him was because I hate that house. I don't feel like it is safe for the kids with all the traffic, and I was right. It's my husband's workhouse. I can't be running either. I had a C-section less 6 weeks ago. A lot of people are saying why wasn't I watching the kids? I was doing their laundry like a parent. Does he takes them for walks to have bonding time with them? He literally created this by himself. This has never happened before. How was I supposed to know? And people saying, why didn't I get him checked out? I'm not his mother, he is 30 years old. I'm sick of people acting like I have to parent my own husband while I literally have a newborn, a toddler, and I'm still healing from a C-section that I teared my stitches from when I ran to get my baby. I don't care if it was his ADHD, the court wouldn't care either. If he killed my child, he would have gone to prison, either way. Relevant comments. Comment 1. Okay, he was 100% wrong and I'd be livid just like you. However, I'm a little confused about the situation. Like, why was your baby just in a stroller unattended? Why did the stroller randomly go into the road? Since it sounds like you were at home, is this maybe something y'all normally do just to have a place for a baby to sit out front of your house when your toddler is playing outside? And maybe it was a freak accident. I'm going to be honest, as a mom, most of us have stories of near-death experiences with our kids. We can be naive and stupid and expect a little child to have more awareness, survival skills than they do. When my son was 2, we had a horrible experience with an escalator, and I still have times where I can't sleep because of it. We are all idiots when it comes to parenting, because how can you know until you live it? And seriously, like, every parent has one of these moments, unless you're one of those insanely lucky ones. I still really don't understand the whole scenario of what happened, but to me it seems he really has remorse and feels terrible. And once you go through something like that, you never forget it. So if he cares and loves your kids, he's devastated and has learned a hard lesson. I don't know that your response was the best, but get why you did it in the moment. But I think you guys have a serious talk and maybe look into moving if possible. I wouldn't go straight to divorce like Reddit loves to preach. I think there is a solution here. And so sorry you're dealing with this, it's literally the worst feeling in the world. OP. Hi love, let me just clear it up for you. So I was sitting inside in the lounge room and there's a huge window behind the TV that was a little open so I could hear outside. That's when I heard my toddler scream for her dad to help. When I was outside, he was standing on the neighbor's driveway. I assume that he must have had left the baby literally on the road because there was no possible way that it would have rolled off like that, and my toddler was playing with the neighbor's cat before she noticed her brother was rolling away when I confronted him about it. He tried to explain but he just kept stuttering. I still don't know what exactly happened. I don't know if he didn't put the brakes on the stroller. If the wind blew him away, I just don't know. My neighbor contacted me and asked if I wanted the security footage because his wife is 100% on my side, so I'll probably find out once it gets sent to me. Comment 2. I want to acknowledge that this is a horrific situation, but saying I don't care if it was his ADHD isn't going to fix anything, and will probably only make things worse. Talking and thinking about it like he intentionally tried to kill your child isn't either. With ADHD, you actually do not register things like this at all sometimes. Life expectancy for those of us with ADHD is actually significantly lower because many of us end up, often accidentally, killing ourselves. It is not the same thing as carelessness, but learning about ADHD a little deeper can help you guys be safer. Understanding how my ADHD works and using different than standard precautions, like my brain needs, has actually most likely saved my life. Lie out what you want from him. That's probably because he gets his ADHD better under control, whether that be through prescription medication or more homeopathic method, that you get a different place if possible, that he does not take your kids out in your front yard without you, etc. Also, neither he or the neighbor noticed, but you heard your kid from inside? Something seems off here. Were your neighbors just watching the stroller roll towards the street? Was your husband on the other side of your house where he couldn't see the stroller? Were you already walking outside as this unfolded? I'm trying to understand better what was going on here and why your husband or the neighbor did not notice, but you did from inside. People with ADHD tend to be incredibly good and quick to act in emergency situations, so this is especially weird. I'm absolutely not accusing you of leaving anything out or anything, but asking you to think about what your husband and the neighbor were doing that neither noticed. That smells fishy. This is a horrible situation. I lost a pet due to the inattentiveness of ADHD, but I can't imagine losing or even nearly losing a child. OP, that's why I'm waiting for the footage. It doesn't make sense how this all happened. I don't know how to explain my house. There's a huge window in the lounge room, it was open a little too, I can listen out. The neighbor's house is 2 houses away. We are at the end of the street near the main road. That when you first walk into my house on your left, there is the lounge on the right. The kitchen. When I got up I couldn't run that fast because I'm still healing. Sorry if this doesn't make sense. When I ran outside, the neighbor's wife was running for the stroller but was still far away, and the neighbor was helping my little girl off the road. That's all I seen. I'm just waiting for a response from them. My husband was just standing there, hands on his head, doing nothing. Comment 3, I fucking screamed when I read what happened. Are you okay? Like, did you get any more damage to yourself? You literally just had a baby. What the fuck was your husband doing? Like being outside with small children, especially on a busy street, should be treated like watching babies swim because anything can happen in an instant. I hope you're okay, and also, DDK, but do you all have cameras in your house? I wonder how long your husband was talking to the neighbor. OP, I tore my stitches from the C-section and had to go to the ER while I was there. I made sure my baby girl got her knees and hands bandaged up. The crazy thing is, I didn't even realize I was bleeding until I was in my parents' car. My mom pointed it out. She panicked and took the baby boy back to their house, and my dad took me and my daughter to the hospital. Update 1. The neighbor's wife sent me the footage, and I really can't just wrap my head around it. So my husband was walking with the stroller and my toddler was in front of them when they passed the neighbor's house. My neighbor was outside, washing his car, and my toddler saw his pet cat and stopped to pet it. So my husband stopped. Left my baby on the road. He didn't even bother locking the wheels and walked all the way up the driveway, not even bothering looking back at the baby. He had his back faced to him for about 5 minutes before the stroller just suddenly started moving. I think it's because the road is on a hill kinda, or it could have been the wind. My toddler never went near the stroller. It couldn't be her. The stroller went down the road and my toddler. That's when she started screaming and running for it when she saw it. The neighbor started running after my daughter when she tripped. He tried to pick her up. That's when the neighbor's wife's car comes into frame and she stops and starts running back to the way the stroller is coming after that. You can't really see anything because it's all out of frame, but you can hear all the commotion. My husband just stood there the whole time, hand on his head with a blank stare on his face. He didn't even do anything when our toddler was crying from hurting herself. He only started crying when I confronted him. What should I do? I genuinely do not know what to do. I'm panicking. This was never the life I wanted for my kids. I don't understand why he was standing there. I have not even gotten a text or a call from him since I got sent the video. It's just been silent. I just can't get the sound of my daughter's screams. That's the sound that no mother wants to hear. I can't explain at the moment, but it felt like my blood went cold. And I just felt pure fear. I never want to watch the footage again. Update 2. Hey everyone, I posted here a while back about my husband nearly killing our newborn son. I wanted to give a quick update on the situation. After reading through the comments, I decided to go back to my husband. Many of you pointed out that if I left him, we'd end up with 50/50 custody of our kids, which I couldn't bear. So I made the difficult choice to stay, even though my love for him has faded. My plan now is to tough it out until our kids turn 18, and then leave. I'm terrified of getting pregnant again, especially since I'm not allowed to use birth control or get my tubes tied. My parents, who could offer support, are moving away, leaving me feeling trapped. Despite everything, my husband tries hard to make things right. He still treats me with affection and goes out of his way to create special moments for our family. Seeing him bond with our newborn and our daughter fills me with conflicting emotions. I know I can't stand being with him, but I can't bear to separate him from our kids either. He was so happy when we came back home, but I can't stand even looking at him. I feel some guilt because he still calls me by my nickname, looks at me like I'm the only girl in the world, besides our daughter, and he still continues our traditions, like when the kids are sleeping he will go get ice cream and our favorite snacks and sets up a fort on our bed to watch movies on our laptop. Even though I'm sacrificing my happiness, my priority is ensuring my children's safety and well-being. It's a tough situation, but I'm doing my best to navigate it for the sake of my family. This is a throwaway, so I'm gonna log out by update 3. As you can see from my previous post, I did go back to him and it was quite literally the biggest mistake I've ever made, but I felt like I really had no choice. No money, family moved out of state, a lot has happened the past couple of months, so it turns out my husband started taking meds for his ADHD a couple of weeks before I was due to give birth to our son. He took my kids on a walk to cover up the fact that he was also on meth. He took my kids to meet his dealer apparently every time they went for a walk. Looking back at the footage now, it makes so much sense because of the way he was talking to the neighbor before everything happened. He was kind of leaning to the side. I talked to my neighbor, and I asked him if he knew that my husband was on drugs. He said he didn't, but he noticed that my husband looked a bit off recently. His wife works at a rehab clinic after a fight where I had to flee with the kids to the neighbor's house. She pointed out that the way he was acting was the way that people acted with drug withdrawal. My neighbor and his wife ended up helping me book a flight to my parents. I'm currently with them right now, and I have spoken to a lawyer that my parents are going to help me pay for. I thank all the people from my original post that told me to keep the footage because it is going to come in handy. My husband keeps sending me videos of him shooting up and doing other substances. He keeps saying that they are going to fix him. He sent me a video of him standing in our kids' room. And he was just screaming at me, saying that it helped him cope with his addiction. He took a knife and stabbed both of our kids' mattresses. I am not going back. He even cut up the side of my bed. There's a comment from my previous post that has been sitting in the back of my mind and has been bugging me, I think. You know which one it was by relevant comment, saying I don't care if it was his ADHD isn't going to fix anything, and will probably only make things worse. Talking and thinking about it like he intentionally tried to kill your child isn't either. With ADHD you actually do not register things like this at all sometimes. Life expectancy for those of us with ADHD is actually significantly lower because many of us end up, often accidentally, killing ourselves. It is not the same thing as carelessness, but learning about ADHD a little deeper can help you guys be safer. Understanding how my ADHD works and using different than standard precautions, like my brain needs, has actually most likely saved my life. Lie out what you want from him? That's probably because he gets his ADHD better under control, whether that be through prescription medication or more homeopathic methods, that you get a different place if possible, that he does not take your kids out in your front yard without you, etc. Also, neither he or the neighbor noticed, but you heard your kid from inside. Something seems off here. Were your neighbors just watching the stroller roll towards the street? Was your husband on the other side of your house where he couldn't see the stroller? Were you already walking outside as this unfolded? I'm trying to understand better what was going on here and why your husband or the neighbor did not notice, but you did from inside. People with ADHD tend to be incredibly good and quick to act in emergency situations, so this is especially weird. I'm absolutely not accusing you of leaving anything out or anything, but asking you to think about what your husband and the neighbor were doing that neither noticed. That smells fishy. This is a horrible situation. I lost a pet due to the inattentiveness of ADHD, but I can't imagine even nearly losing a child. WTF, it baffles me that you can even compare losing an animal to losing a child. You made people with ADHD sound completely unreliable for themselves and that they can't do anything. You made them sound very helpless, and saying that the life expectancy thing was completely uncalled for as well. I bet many people with ADHD reading that completely disagreed with you, judging from all the comments and YouTube videos I've seen on my post. I don't know if you're projecting that you lost a pet from your inattentiveness of ADHD. If you were letting things die in your care, you need to get stronger help. And no, I was not going to lay out what I want from him. He's the one that started mixing his meds and was high off his mind every time they went out for a walk. And no, I'm not ableist. I was in a very vulnerable state. When I first posted my original post, all I was doing was looking for help and advice, but all I got was, where was you? What were you doing? Why weren't you with the kids? Why didn't you get your husband checked out? I was healing from a fucking C-section. Get that through your heads. I genuinely hope that everybody that said something horrible about me in my original post has to get cut open and then 4 days later is forced to run down the street. I gave him another chance like you all said in my original post. You saw what happened. Stop using ADHD as an excuse. I genuinely believe that if he had killed my child, you would have defended him, and no, I did not know he was on drugs. And all the people that reached out to me, I'm going to be forever grateful for all of the parents with ADHD that didn't make me feel like it was all my fault, and all the stories that you guys have shared with me made me feel so seen because I know exactly how it feels. I hope everybody is doing well. Everybody that was defending me. I wish I could give you a big hug. I genuinely wish I could send gift baskets. I would thank you all from the bottom of my heart, and I am so sorry about that comment that person made. I know you guys are all not like that. You guys are genuinely intelligent. From all the comments that I've read, I could not thank you guys enough. And one person that sent me that horrible message, I genuinely hope I run into you one day so I can beat your ass until you see stars and say anything about my daughter or my son one more time, and I will literally track you down. My 20-year marriage ended when I discovered my husband was cheating with our son's 18-year-old girlfriend, causing immense family turmoil. I'm going to use pseudonyms for anyone I reference in this post. I, 41, am a stay-at-home mom. My husband, 48, whom we'll call Paul, works in finance. We have been married for nearly 20 years. We have 2 kids, whom we'll call Eric, our 18-year-old son, currently a senior in high school, and Mary, our 15-year-old daughter. They are both the lights of my life. My marriage with my husband has grown somewhat stale over the years for a myriad of reasons, such as his work schedule and how I've aged poorly since we first met. Our son Eric has a girlfriend, 18, whom he's been dating since they were freshmen in high school. We'll call her Amy. Eric absolutely adores Amy. She's his first love, and she's someone I've always considered as family. This makes the whole situation emotionally excruciating for me. Last week I inadvertently saw my husband's phone screen and got a glimpse of a text thread between my husband and Amy, our son's girlfriend, and I read what looked like a message of her telling him that she misses sucking his cock. I froze in place, in complete disbelief. I spent most of the day convincing myself that I must have misread what I saw. However, I didn't misread it because, over the last several days, I discovered a file on his computer filled with tons of BDSM porn. He clearly has a porn addiction. He also has saved photos of Amy from her Instagram on his computer. Although they weren't inappropriate, she was fully clothed, it was still the proof I needed to confirm that I wasn't going crazy. I also looked at his phone during opportune moments and saw more of their interactions. I wish I had never looked. They were filled with mean, horrible things said at my expense, with him constantly comparing me to her. He would call me fat and old, among other things, with Amy LOLing. I've always had hunches or paranoid feelings that Paul has been cheating on me, but never in a million years could I have fathomed something like this. Last month, I found a thong in our bedroom that I know wasn't mine. I turned a blind eye to it, being naive and acting like it was maybe our daughter's, even though that made zero sense. Not only is he cheating on me, but he's betraying our son. I'm completely devastated. I don't even think words can adequately describe the dread, anger, shock I feel right now. I'm totally overwhelmed on how to handle this because obviously action needs to be taken, but I'm terrified of what kind of psychic blow this will be for my son. I have no idea how to even broach this completely fucked up topic with him. I wouldn't wish this predicament on my worst enemy. I can't even believe I married this scumbag in the first place. And then my mind started to race, realizing that I started noticing specifically unusual behavior from him around the same time Amy turned 18. Was he waiting for her to turn 18 before pursuing this affair? There's so many layers to all of this and I'm completely paralyzed with fear and dread about it all. None of it makes any fucking sense. How did this happen? Am I that much of a stupid idiot that I let all of this happen under my watch? Eric adores Amy, and the thought of revealing this sickening truth to him terrifies me. The impact on his young heart and mind could be devastating. My heart aches for Eric and Mary, who are completely innocent bystanders. I haven't confronted my husband about this because I'm frankly scared of the domino effect. I don't know who to turn to first about this. I share my story not for sympathy, but in search of understanding and perhaps advice from those who might have had to grapple with deep betrayal. Thank you for listening. Further info from OP to not have my initial post be long-winded because I didn't think I needed to get into the minutiae of this, I didn't bother going into those details. How I inadvertently saw it was this: he was on his phone, he did not have iMessage open currently on the screen, but the application was still open. You know how on the iPhone when you swipe up it shows all of the applications that are open and you can close them. When he was closing out the applications, something he does compulsively, I noticed it. It's not like he was some kind of idiotic buffoon having a message open for all to see. I saw he forgot he had the application running when he swiped up from a completely different app. Also, I did say in my post that I went back to his phone to actually solidify my suspicion on a different day. So you are incorrect in asserting that I'm now magically changing my story. I am being consistent. Relevant comments. Comment 1. If she's freshly 18, isn't this illegal? There's no way they weren't doing anything illegal before she turned into an adult. Also, even if the age gap is over 3 decades, our husband is suspected ASF, police immediately. OP, she's been 18 for 5 months now. I haven't been able to gauge when their affair started. I'm trying my hardest to figure that out. He deletes his texts every couple of weeks it seems like, so I haven't been able to pinpoint when this whole thing started. OPADs in the comments. Thank you everyone for overwhelming support. I'm sorry if I haven't responded to your private messages. I'll get to it when I can. Dealing with a lot right now and taking a lot of steps that need to be taken. I'm trying to be smart and strategic with this truly surreal and terrible situation I'm in. I want to be clear that not telling my son about this was never something I was considering. I didn't mean to make it seem that way. I was just saying I'm intensely dreading it, but obviously it needs to be addressed. It's one part of the many steps of my overall plan. I'm currently playing dumb and collecting as much evidence as I can so I can be prepared for anything and everything. I'm going to protect myself and I'm going to make sure I don't put myself in any potential harm's way. I'll post a more thorough update soon when I can. But please know, you've all touched my heart so much and made me feel less alone. Update 1. I'm using pseudonyms for confidentiality. I shared a situation a few days ago on another subreddit involving my 41F husband, Paul, 48M our children, Eric, 18M and Mary, 15F. I discovered that Paul was having an affair with our son's 18-year-old girlfriend, Amy. My son has been dating her since they were freshmen in high school. My brother connected me to a very tough junkyard dog-type lawyer. I saved screenshots of all his conversations with Amy. I was only able to get the last 3 months from iCloud. The conversations were mostly flirty and dirty talk. It was hard to stomach, Completely sleazy, and I saw several negative things said about me. His call history showed he talks with her for hours pretty consistently. He uses dating apps. I took screenshots of his profiles and all of the active chats he has with his matches. It's very clear he uses a filter to seek out girls who are 18, 22 or so. I copied all of his files from the computer. He goes on sex chat rooms and forums, and he spends a ton of money on OnlyFans. I rummaged through every possible hiding spot I could think of in the house. He had various toys, blindfolds, cuffs, lubricants, etc. He also had different outfits which looked kind of like a girl's Catholic school uniform and a French maid type outfit too. I picked up Eric and Mary from school, and we all drove to my brother's. They were able to sense something was awry when I picked them up. I delicately told them the entire situation, and I broke down crying. Mary had the most anger, even more than Eric. I met with Amy's mother and told her everything. She confiscated Amy's phone and gave me the entire chat log. It only dated back 3 months, like on my husband's cloud, almost as if they both deleted the messages at the same time. She told me Amy sobbed when confronted. Amy basically told her mother that she will never understand and that she and him are in love. I don't want to get into too many details with what else she was saying, but suffice to say, it's very easy to assume that my husband slowly and methodically became a sage-like figure in her life, making her feel she could rely on him, and he took advantage of the fact that she came from a broken home. Amy is also non-stop insistent that their friendship only became romantic physical recently, and before that, she said he was more of a friend and mentor. I confronted Paul over Zoom. The look on his face was scary. He became red and looked so sweaty. He had anger and panic in his eyes. His tone of voice was very defensive and frightening. He kept yelling the word context over and over again, and that none of that happened. He was unable to speak without constant stutters and intensity. Nothing really made any sense to me. I refused to tell him where I was, and he said I had no right to take his kids away from him, and then he abruptly left the Zoom. My lawyer is filing for temporary sole custody of Mary and a restraining order. Mary is still the most angry. She's totally furious with her dad and Amy. Justifiably so, of course. Mary is recollecting moments and times she watched her dad interact with her friends, and she's in knots about it. Eric is very clearly hurting, but he's so strong and very level-headed. He wants to see a therapist. The maturity my kids are showing makes me proud. They don't deserve this at all. We made the authorities aware of everything. I plan on being completely unforgiving and ruthless in this divorce. I'm reflecting on how I've been treated and how it's made me a shell of myself, and how I've had a very negative opinion of myself because of him over the last 20 years. I don't want to let this scumbag get away with it. I want to reinvent myself and move on stronger than ever. Relevant comments. Comment 1. How is your son holding up? What has developed between him and Amy? OP. He hasn't spoken to Amy yet since finding out the news, and I'm not sure if he ever will again. Comment 2. Have you confirmed if the thong you found was Amy's? The situation is fucked up. OP. I confirmed that it wasn't my daughter's. She said it wasn't hers. And I know it wasn't mine. So who else could it be? Comment 3. Wait. Are you saying that they fucked in the master bedroom? Comment 4. Don't cheaters always use their married bed? OP. Yes, I believe he did. OP adds in the comments. Both me and my son are going to get tested and checked out as well. There's no telling how many different women he's been sleeping around with. As for Amy, her mom has been in contact with me, and Amy has been threatening to run away with him because they are in love. Update 2. Thank you again for all the love and encouragement. It gives me comfort and means so much to me. I've received many comments and messages accusing me of faking this story, which oddly also provides comfort because all of this feels unreal even to me. It validates my own feelings that there are people out there who can't even fathom this being true. I wish it were fake. I've been focusing on and worrying about how others are feeling over this, somewhat ignoring my own feelings, which I'm trying to change. I range from anger to numbness like a light switch. We're all safe and still at my brother's house. We're very careful, and his house is secured. Paul has tried to call my cell phone several times a day. I am refusing to interact with him, and I will have my lawyer handle all correspondence. He scares me, frankly. My brother has a very secure house with an alarm system and deadbolt locks. We feel safe with him. Both my son and I got checked out and tested. It appears so far that we're both clean based on the immediate rapid tests, but in the coming days, we'll know for certain when the lab results come in. I'm not overly concerned. Eric is scheduled to see a therapist early next week, which is very good and needed. He's not himself right now. He seems a bit shell-shocked, and I'm concerned. He internalizes a lot, and it's hard to get a read on what's going on in his head. That being said, He's thoughtful and has been talking with me, asking me how I'm doing and everything. He's not interested in corresponding with his dad at all. He calls only my cell phone, and he hasn't tried to reach out to either Eric or Mary. I get the sense that Paul is extremely nervous. He's scared, and I think he deep down knows that if investigated thoroughly, he would be in big trouble. That's what my gut is telling me. I still think about the Zoom call with him, and the more I think about it, the more it looked like he was a man whose entire world was crashing down on him. The panic in his face was very apparent. I offered Mary for me to make an appointment with a therapist as well, but she doesn't want to see one yet. She said she's open to it eventually but wants time to herself. She's been asking her friends about her dad and if they experienced any creepiness from him. Her friends were open and honest with her, and apparently, they felt like he stared a lot and sensed his hovering presence whenever they were over. One of Mary's friends went so far as to say that she felt like he was checking her out a lot. Like looking at her rear and complimenting the color of her yoga pants. At the time, no issue was brought up about it, but in light of everything that has been happening, it seems strange now. He would sit himself in different areas or vantage points to get a good view of her, she claimed. He also asked questions about what kind of friend group or which clique they were in at school. He kept asking about if they were popular girls. I'm completely embarrassed that they had this experience at our house. As for updates on Amy, which is the main reason why I wanted to write this update, I completely agree that she is also a victim. A lot of people have been emphasizing that, and I agree. I've done everything I could in my own power to indirectly get her opportunities to get help. Like I said, I told her mother, and she's been updating me on everything. Amy, unfortunately, is still living in her deluded reality, and I can only pray that she'll eventually come to her senses. She doesn't want to see any doctors or therapists at all and has been constantly trying to reach Paul because, again, she believes that they are in love. From what I've been told, she hasn't been able to get hold of him, and he's been avoiding communication with her completely. Amy blames me for that and believes I took away his devices and am very controlling. Any truth that her mother tries to convey to her is met with conspiracy theories and hostility. Amy looks at me as a villain and still sees Paul through rose-colored glasses. Her mother showed her screenshots of his dating app profiles and matches, and she refuses to believe it, saying I photoshopped it. According to her mom, Amy keeps saying things like everyone is just mad because she found herself a real man, and that I'm jealous because she takes better care of him than I do. It's in line with some of the conversations I screenshot, where a lot of what Paul says is him complaining about things I don't do for him sexually. Right now, she's insistent that she and Paul will be together in the long run. Ugh, he's honestly a slimeball. I can only hope that Amy comes to her senses, but me directly intervening doesn't feel like it would be productive at the moment. Maybe eventually though. Relevant comments. Comment 1. I'm so sorry that this happened to you. Reading all the previous posts, I honestly get the vibe that your husband wasn't a very good one to begin with. Someday, when you're ready, you're going to find someone who thinks you're glorious as you age. Your son is also going to be okay. He's gotten a lesson on exactly how men shouldn't behave. A painful one, but in time, he's going to realize that Amy was groomed and abused. It sounds like she was vulnerable, and your ex took advantage of a child who was in a bad situation. Hopefully once Amy has had some time to process just how messed up this was, she'll tell the police the whole story. I fully believe something was happening before she turned 18 OP. I believe stuff happened before she was 18 too. Comment 2. Do you think they kept that relationship secret for most of Eric and Amy's relationship? What a disgusting father and pig if that is truth. OP, I'm not sure when things got actually physical or romantic, but I do think his grooming started as soon as she came into the picture when Eric started dating her freshman year. This mentor and a friend that Amy alluded to had to start right away, and the way she's acting now, being so indebted and believing every single thing he says, shows that his effect on her had to be over a long period of time. She only turned 18 like 5 months ago. Her behavior and infatuation for him seems so strong that it couldn't possibly be only 5 months of them being together. Comment 3. If they are consenting adults, then there is nothing to report. This is a personal problem that needs to be dealt with by attorneys and the people involved. People are way too jumpy to snap to the police to fix their problems anymore. OP is handling this the correct way. If any legal issues come into play, then her attorney will do the right thing. OP. The only thing we can really hang our hat on is the possibility of Amy having an epiphany of the reality of her situation, and she opens up candidly about when it began. But because she's 18 currently and has no interest in saying or doing anything that could potentially put Paul in legal trouble, nothing really can be done. Unless they find out about other girls that I have no idea about yet. Am I the asshole for feeling suspicious after finding condoms in my boyfriend's toiletry bag? This morning, I was helping my 25 boyfriend, 23, get ready for work. He asked me to grab his toothbrush and toothpaste out of his toiletry bag. He has one of those electric toothbrushes with the detachable head and I couldn't find the head. So I opened up another pocket to look for it. I found condoms, a lot of them. He was given this toiletry bag for Christmas before he left on a 3-month trip to visit family in Europe. He acted surprised, like he didn't know they were in there and took them out immediately. He acted like he didn't know that pocket existed. I'd give him the benefit of the doubt, but at some point these condoms were packed in his bag over the past 6 months. We've been together for 2 years. The worst part is they're latex condoms. I'm allergic to latex. We only use non-latex condoms, in addition to my birth control. AIO for feeling suspicious about this. I feel like I'm going crazy. Update, I've seen the comments and I'm kind of freaking out. I'm messaging my therapist right now to figure out the best path forward. I was there at Christmas when he was given the bag. It was at his best friend's family house, so part of me is hoping that his best friend put them in there not knowing I'm allergic to latex. We haven't been intimate as much lately. Maybe once in the past 2 months. I've been really scared that he's not attracted to me anymore, because that's what most people say on here is the reason for someone's sex drive changing so drastically. He asked to move in with me when he came back from his trip and I said yes, so now I feel really trapped, like what if he's been cheating this whole time he's been living with me? He shares his location, but that doesn't really mean anything. I'm here all the time. I've seen the stories of how people cheat even when sharing their location. I wish I hadn't seen anything and I don't know anything he could say to make me feel more secure. Someone said I shouldn't have asked so I could snoop and find out for sure, but I don't want to have to snoop through my partner's belongings to find proof of them cheating on me. A relationship without trust is dead. We're supposed to talk later and I'll update afterwards. Everyone is so sure he's cheating and I really hope he's not, because I don't think I'll be able to handle it if he is. I'm already struggling with my mental health as is. Additional information from OP on why she was in therapy. OP, I'm in therapy because I have CPTSD. I am a survivor of attempted murder at the hands of my biological father, sexual assault and abuse. I am in therapy because my diagnosis is something I will have to live with for the remainder of my life, because I have experienced severe trauma, and because I have no intention of letting it ruin my life and relationships with those I love. I'm also not the one turning down sex. I'm the one that's been attempting to initiate. I messaged my therapist because I have a tendency to push people away to protect myself as a result of my history with abuse. My therapist warned me at the start of this current relationship about self-sabotage and reading too much into things. I texted her because I was unsure of whether or not I'm overreacting, because sometimes, like any other human, I need advice. I came on here while I was waiting for her to respond. I don't expect people on Reddit to be informed on the details of my life and relationship to be able to have the full picture. Thank you for the diagnosis, assumptions, and empathy. Update 1. I definitely was not expecting to see over 1,000 comments on my post. This update is long to address everyone's concerns in the previous post. Thank you to the people who sent me kind messages to check on me. I'm not sure what the people who sent me messages trying to fuck me were expecting aside from getting blocked. That being said, I did have a conversation with my boyfriend last night. I was always planning on having an in-depth conversation about what I had found, but there was nothing I could do about it while he was at work. I texted my therapist because I could tell I was starting to spiral, and posted on here while I was waiting for her response, which I think was a mistake, if I'm being honest. Although the majority of the comments were supportive, it's impossible for y'all to have as full of a picture as my therapist does, and I should have just waited for her to respond to me instead of coming on here. The massive amount of comments was very overwhelming. However, I do think that posting did help me feel more secure in thinking it was suspicious and enabled me to be more assertive when we talked. I appreciate all the comments telling me I was not overreacting. He never said I was, but his nonchalant response certainly made me feel that way. I appreciate the thought-out comments encouraging me to have a conversation with him and giving me genuine advice for it. The second conversation went better. I didn't accuse him of anything. I pretty much just said that finding non-latex condoms in addition to the lack of intimacy I'd been receiving was making me feel confused and upset. I asked him where the condoms came from. His older brother gave them to him while he was in Europe. To prevent confusion, I'm going to use fake names from here on out. My boyfriend is Theo. His oldest brother is Alvin. His other brother is Simon. Yes, like the Chipmunks. I couldn't think of other names for 3 brothers. Sorry. Theo hadn't met his mother's side of the family, including his mother, grandmother, aunt and older siblings, until his trip. The entire purpose was to get to know his family. He spent half with his aunt, grandma, brothers, and cousin in Spain. The other half of the trip he spent with his mother in the middle of nowhere in Portugal helping her open a kiosk. It was not a sightseeing trip. He didn't get to see any big monuments or go to major cities. I was not able to come because I'm in school and work full time, and it wasn't worth it for me to just come for a week during the spring break. I also thought it was important for him to enjoy his one-on-one time with his mom since he was separated from her when he was an infant. His brothers are very different people. Simon seems well adjusted with a long-term girlfriend. He spent a lot of time with Simon and his girlfriend, who was the only one there fluent in English and helped him translate when his Spanish fell short. His oldest brother, the 30-year-old who gave him the condoms, Alvin, has been in and out of prison for a majority of his life. I guess Spain has some weird laws around squatting, so whenever he gets out of prison the dude just claims abandoned property and fixes it up to live in, because I guess the government would have to provide him housing if they kicked him out. Anyways. While Theo was on the trip, he called and texted me every day. He told me about Alvin obnoxiously catcalling girls when they'd all walk down the street and how Alvin had tried to get both him and Simon to go to an orgy with him despite both of them having girlfriends. Theo was very clear about having a girlfriend. He carries around a picture of me in his wallet, and his aunt said he talked about me a lot while he was there. Despite this, Alvin was very pushy with him about how he should be fucking a bunch of women while he was there and having fun. I remember this from when Theo was there. He found it really annoying. So did Simon. I guess during one of those conversations, Alvin straight up gave Theo a bunch of condoms to use to cheat on me. Side note, I counted them based on a comment someone left about how many are typically in a pack. They're all still there, I think. There's 8. I don't know how many come in the packs in Spain. Theo hid them in his bag. He said he would have left them there, but his aunt cleaned his room regularly and he didn't want the drama of his other family members seeing. Once he got back, he forgot they were in there. He only uses his toiletry bag when he goes to the gym. We went out together with our friends Saturday night after his shift and stopped at the gym on the way downtown so he could shower and freshen up. Otherwise his toothbrush is in our bathroom. He's not living out of a suitcase, he's fully moved in. I do see how some commenters saw the existence of the toiletry bag as a red flag when we lived together. So I wanted to clear that up. I did ask him why he accepted the condoms. He said he had zero intention of using them, and that he accepted them because Alvin wouldn't listen to anything Theo said about me and that he left him alone after that. Theo didn't even say goodbye to him when he left. He tried to spend as little time with Alvin as possible, despite him constantly inviting both Theo and Simon over to his abandoned house. Simon grew up with Alvin, but still seemed pretty content about avoiding him when I asked about it while Theo was there. I guess he's just not a good person, so the rest of the family avoids him when possible. So that's it. My boyfriend didn't cheat on me. The condoms came from his older brother. I believe him. He was very straightforward with his answers, and was more concerned with my well-being when he came home and saw how upset I was. He wasn't defensive at all. He listened to me without interrupting. He told me he loves me and that he has zero desire to cheat on me. He also works 2 jobs, shares his location, and usually is at home if he's not at work or the occasional gym visit. He doesn't have the time to see other women, and if he does have spare time, he spends it with me or his friends, who are also my friends. He does have friends separate from our friend group at work, but he invites me to come along when they've gone out or asks me to join them when they play Overwatch after work. I love him. I believe him, and I'm moving past this. That doesn't mean I'll let any additional red flags slide if they pop up though. As many of you said, I'm still young and have my whole life ahead of me. If things get worse, I know I'll be okay by myself. I love him and I want him in my life, but my happiness doesn't depend on his presence. I have a therapy session tomorrow, and I've had a lot of time to think. In hindsight, I think what made me spiral the most was that if he really did cheat on me, I'd be living with a stranger. I've had so much trust built up towards him, so I view him as this person who would never hurt me intentionally or yell at me or cheat on me. If he was capable of cheating on me, he could be capable of those other things too. That was really scary to think about and made me spiral. The massive amount of comments where everyone was so convinced he was a terrible person and that I'd been fooled also did not help. I felt like I had no idea how he would react towards me if it was true, and I was very, very scared. As soon as he came home, I felt very silly for feeling that way. He's nothing like my ex. He's never given me a reason to be afraid of him. I shouldn't have let comments on the internet freak me out so bad, and I definitely need to take some time away from Reddit. I hope I addressed all the questions, concerns in the comments. Thank you for all your help. Thank you for listening. For the commenters who had questions regarding our sex life and relationship in general. When he first came back from his trip and moved in, things were normal and we both had high sex drives. Things started slowing down pretty drastically over the past couple of months. We've talked about it prior to me finding the condoms. We both acknowledge that it's an issue and that we're at an age where our sexual activity should be at its peak. He says he doesn't know what's wrong. He's embarrassed because he's attracted to me and doesn't understand how he can have a gorgeous girlfriend and lose his sex drive. His words, not mine. He has an appointment next week to get his hormones checked and has been looking into getting a therapist of his own in case the issue is mental and not physical. It's still difficult to not feel insecure when I try initiating and he's not in the mood, but he still makes an effort to show affection in other ways. Our current level of intimacy isn't ideal, but I don't think it's a lost cause as long as we're working towards a solution together. We have date nights every week. I'm very supportive of him spending time with his friends and he does the same for me. We live together, but no one is clingy or codependent. We do check in with each other to see how we're feeling about the living situation since it is somewhat new and we're still figuring out how to divide and conquer with household tasks. I'm a full-time student and I work full-time. He works 2 jobs. We both contribute equally, and do our best to make time for ourselves and each other despite our busy schedules. I have 14 credits this summer and barely exist outside of work and school, lol. For the commenters who had some things to say about me having a therapist or mental health issues. I try my best to ensure that I am my main support system. I've been in the position before of being someone's emotional punching bag due to their mental illness and I would never ever put someone I love in that position. I'm in therapy because I have experienced an extreme amount of trauma and don't want my CPTSD to impact my life and relationships in a negative way. I grew up with a mom with severe anxiety, and most likely undiagnosed PTSD, related to the trauma both of us experienced at the hands of my biological father. She doesn't believe in therapy. I had to call 911 several times as a small child because of her panic attacks. I love my mom, and our relationship has come a long way, but the last thing I would want when I have children is for me to be an unstable parental figure. My usage of therapy doesn't warrant me staying single. My therapist has been very encouraging of this relationship since my boyfriend asked me out 2 years ago. I had gotten out of an incredibly abusive and toxic relationship the year prior, and had zero intention of getting into another serious relationship anytime soon. I was thriving and my therapist thought I was ready, but I told my boyfriend that I needed to focus on myself. We took things slow. He was respectful and patient every step of the way until I was ready. He has never raised his voice at me or even cussed at me. He is a very caring partner. I think his love language is based on quality time and acts of service. He's not great with words, but he tries. He can be a bit emotionally distant at times and not know exactly what to say when I'm upset, but that doesn't prevent him from being there and giving me a hug when I need it. We've been going through a rough patch with our intimacy, and when I was off my meds I felt like he, and everyone else in my life, viewed me as a burden despite him telling me he'd be there for me and for me to just ask for whatever I needed. He's told me many times that he's still attracted to me and that it has nothing to do with me, but when I was feeling low I kind of let my past trauma impact how I felt about myself. Being repeatedly sexually assaulted kind of made me feel like my worth is based on my sexuality, so having a boyfriend who isn't all over me anymore made me feel like there was something wrong with me. Like if I'm trying to initiate and am available and the person who loves me doesn't want it. But someone else was willing to violently take it from me when I didn't want it, what does that say about me? I know that's not rational and I've talked a lot about it in therapy, but it is something that I struggle with sometimes. I posted on here during a low time with my depression because I needed to vent and didn't want to burden anyone I knew with my irrational negativity. Depression is weird, especially after years of therapy. When I'm at my lowest, the intrusive thoughts are overwhelming, but deep down I know they're irrational and that they'll eventually pass, even if it doesn't feel like it on the surface level. I know some of the things I said then were concerning, but I really wasn't in any danger. There's a lot of things I want to accomplish in my life and I know I'm capable of them even if it does feel hopeless sometimes. I know I have people in my life who love me, I just have a hard time reaching out for help when I need it and need to be better at letting people be there for me. My mom raised me to be really self-sufficient and she's also got a lot on her plate with my dad being sick, so I don't want to bother her and make her spiral more than she already is. I've been set back a lot with my education because of all the stuff I've been going through, but I know I have a bright future and that I should be proud of myself for making it this far. I am back on medication and am increasing the frequency of my therapy appointments from once a month to every other week. I was doing well before I went off my meds, so I'm doing my best to get back on track. Sorry for rambling. I know I don't owe anyone an explanation of my mental health here, but I know some people were worried. I'm okay. I'm going to be okay. With or without my boyfriend. My mental illness does not prevent me from being a loving and supportive friend and partner. Using therapy doesn't make me a weak person incapable of standing up for myself and making decisions. Update 2. I'm low-key regretting posting an update at all. I don't know why the opinions of strangers bother me, but it's kind of annoying that so many people didn't read the entire thing and just said I wrote all that to convince myself. I wrote that a full 24 hours after I had my conversation with him and debated posting anything at all because I figured people would be convinced he cheated regardless of anything I had to say. It's detailed because so many people had different things to say about different parts of my original post. I thought if I just posted his brother gave him the condoms, people would say that was a vague answer. Of course it feels like a complex story to someone who never heard about his trip, but the only thing I didn't already know was that his brother had given him condoms. His trip was a shit show. He was on the phone with me every single day telling me about it and fell asleep on the phone with me 99% of the time. He wasn't going out at night, he wasn't partying. Half his trip he spent with his estranged mother and her crazy racist abusive boyfriend who kept accusing him of stealing and saying wild shit about how he couldn't believe my boyfriend would sleep with an *****er like me. I had to talk him down on the phone to keep him from freaking out and endangering himself because he had no way of getting home if his mom's boyfriend kicked him out. He already got abandoned in a random town in Portugal by them for like a full day and a half at one point. I'm not surprised the condom slipped his mind. If he hadn't maintained constant communication with me while he was there, I'd be more suspicious. If he hadn't told me about all the other crazy shit his brother pulled while he was there, I'd be more suspicious. If he had gotten defensive at all, I'd be suspicious. He didn't lie to me. He didn't know they were there. The bag has 1,000,000 pockets and he only really uses one of them. The pocket seemed empty from the outside. He forgot he stashed them there. People seem so sure that I'm this naive, spineless person when I'm not. If you'd read what I said about my mental health, you would know I already have a tendency to be hypervigilant about red flags and be avoidant to protect myself. I don't like being vulnerable. I don't like depending on other people. I mentioned my boyfriend never yelling or cursing because I've quite literally never witnessed him get angry. The most upset I've seen him was when he was trying to defend me while he was in Europe. He's probably the most calm, stoic person I've ever met. I love that about him. I love him. I trust him. Also, his last serious relationship ended with him catching his ex in the act of cheating on him. She had mental health issues and responded to being caught by attempting to kill herself by walking into traffic. I know some internet troll is going to say that's another far-fetched story, but I know it's true. His best friend's mom, who is basically also his mom, pulled me aside when she met me and told me that she was glad he found someone that makes him so happy after everything he went through with her. I don't think he would cheat on me after going through something like that. He's a really good person. He's fully capable of being a support system for me. I just was afraid to let him because I didn't want him to feel like he had to worry about me or take care of me the way he did with her. That's not healthy though. I'm trying to be better at trusting people when they say that they want to be there for me, and that includes him. We met at school. He sat behind me in class so he couldn't even really see me. When I asked him later what most attracted him to me, he said that I was well-spoken. My appearance was just a bonus. I don't want to sound conceited, but there is rarely a time when I'm in public and I'm not approached by someone who wants to catcall me, compliment me, or ask me out. I was almost kidnapped twice as a teenager. I hate being approached. I hate being asked out. I turned down every other person that approached me at school trying to hook up or ask me out. But when he did it, he was so nervous and respectful and he felt different somehow, and so I said yes. On our very first date, he took me to an art museum. We went to an amusement park after that. He followed that up with a picnic under the stars where we spoke for at least 5 or 6 hours about our lives and what we wanted in the future. It felt scary at the time because it was the best date I'd ever been on in my life and I didn't think I was ready for anything serious, and he came along and made me feel so comfortable and at ease. We both come from emotionally volatile parents and are trying to do our best not to become them. We connected right away, but I still wanted to take things slow. It took 6 months before I was ready to make things official. During that time, he made it clear that I was the only one he was interested in. He detailed my car multiple times, brought me flowers, got my cat little holiday-themed bandanas. He bought me vinyls of albums that he noticed I listened to in the car. He did all of this without expecting anything in return, and still does these things to this day. He's trying to learn how to braid so we don't have to get my hair done anymore. When he moved in, he organized my whole closet without me asking because he remembered me complaining about it and wanted to take something off my plate. He saw I've been wanting a Gustav Westman mirror for a while and built me one. With his hands. Took me to Home Depot and let me pick out the color I wanted for it and everything. He treats me like a queen. The only rough patch in our relationship has been over the past couple of months when our intimacy decreased, but I have faith things will get better. Finding those condoms freaked me out, but I'm over it now. It's been resolved. If you can't see the value he adds to my life, that's your problem. I'm happy. I'm not responding to any more comments about it. I appreciate everyone that was supportive and recognize the effort I've put into my emotional regulation. I'm going to take a break from Reddit and enjoy the life I have. We couldn't save our 15-year marriage, because my wife friend-zoned me and wants a platonic companionship. My wife, 35F, and I, 35M, have been married for 15 years and we've been together for 20 years. We have 2 kids, 12, 14. We absolutely adore and work tirelessly to provide the best possible life for them. For the past 3 years, things have been somewhat bumpy. I understand that our kids are at an age where they require a ton of our attention and resources with school, band, club sports, and other extracurriculars, and I'm aware of the physical and emotional toll that can have on marriages. However, for these past 3 years, my wife and I have had very little intimacy and very little sex, and we've been trying very hard to work on that aspect of our relationship. This past year has been the most difficult and by far the darkest year in our marriage. We didn't talk very much, we essentially became roommates co-parenting our kids under the same roof. It was very depressing and very demoralizing. It was to the point where we began contemplating divorce, and it became very dark and gloomy in the household because of that. We began seeking help with both individualized therapy and couples therapy, and it seems to have helped some. Little by little we started to get along and started to have deeper conversations about what our marriage looks like and what we would love for it to look like. This is where it gets tough. As time passed, my wife started to tell me she no longer was in love with me, and that she only saw me as a best friend. That she only loved me in a very platonic way. And this was one of the main reasons she didn't have any desire for intimacy and let alone sex. This was very shocking to me, and quite frankly, I was devastated. I became angry and depressed, and I couldn't fathom the thought that I was no longer wanted or desired by the person I felt completely in love with. Things began to deteriorate again, and not long after, we were back to square one. I sat down with her one afternoon and had a heart-to-heart and began to ask questions about where the root of this problem lies, and her answer was I don't know, and that, I have built up resentment towards you, but I don't know where it stems from. As you can imagine, this provides very little to no insight into how to approach this. I'm puzzled, I'm frustrated, and I do not know what to do at this point. Currently, we've arrived at a place where she says that she has no sex drive and no desire for intimacy or connection. She says that all she wants is simply companionship, which basically means our co-parenting roommate dynamic. I asked her what I could possibly do, or what is it about me that is so unattractive or undesirable, and her response is always I don't know. She stated that she does love me, but it's not the same. That she has been feeling disconnected for years and that our marriage just takes up too much work. Her focus is only the children for now, and that my co-parenting contributions are meaningful to her in our home. I'm at a loss, and I'm mainly venting about my frustration. It's tough to realize that the person you love has no feelings for you. I feel like at this point I'm only here to contribute financially and as a parent. I feel like what she means with companionship is that she's comfortable with the convenience of having a good father for our kids and my financial contribution to the household. In regard to intimacy and/or sex, she basically told me that it's not something she's interested in, or wants at this time. She mentioned that the only way to get to a point for any of that is to be intoxicated, which is incredibly awful and very wrong. I told her I do not think forcing herself to have sex or be intimate by drinking or smoking is good, and I declined to be a part of that, which to my surprise, it upset her and made her more distant. We're both extremely honest and transparent. We've never cheated on each other, and we are always free to look through each other's phones, emails, socials, etc. And we hardly ever do. I asked her if there was someone else and she declined. Honestly, I believe her. We then peacefully went through each other's things, and as expected it was clean. We've always been very forward, even with the hard topics, so I don't smell or feel any foul play or infidelity. Am I wrong for declining to only be intimate or have sex when she's intoxicated? I'm firm on my stance of not partaking in this only when I'm high or drunk sex, because it doesn't sit well with me. I do not know how to help our situation, and I'm starting to become a bit anxious and desperate. We're both fairly young and healthy individuals and good looking. We both have good standing careers and are good parents. I'm just not sure how our lives could have driven us to this point. I'd love some outside perspective on this matter and some insight on how to address something like this. It feels so awful to be unwanted and undesired by my own spouse. I hate it. My wife of 15 plus years is no longer in love with me and doesn't know why and now says she can only have sex while intoxicated or I need to settle for a platonic sexless marriage and she doesn't know why that is but it is what it is and I'm in need of insight or advice. Relevant comments, missing reasons. Commenters looked at his history and found they were swingers. We did some swinging in the past. That was fun for some time. We mutually decided to stop doing it and we have established it's not the case. When we were swinging, however, our marriage seemed to be in a good place. This is something we did disclose with our couple therapist and made sure to include it to make sure we're not neglecting an obvious potential issue. I will say, I did ask my wife if what she experienced during swinging is something that is affecting her view on our relationship and she said it wasn't. Our swinging experience was always together and it was very sex-driven. Nothing really emotional or poly. Truth is, I have to believe her at her word. I have no reason to distrust her. To date, she's always been very forward and never afraid of dealing things head on. No matter how painful. If this is a consequence of swinging, this issue existed long before the lifestyle. I agree that swinging wasn't a solution in the end. Never was meant to be. It was more of discovering or exploring if she felt any different. If that was the case, we agreed we would talk about it and if we arrive at the conclusion that myself is the problem and she has no problem with other men, we would part ways amicably. However, this wasn't the case. She didn't like sex or intimacy there either. She was very much in control of that whole swinging situation. And yes, I went along with it. What gives? It felt very organic and it was her effort, if you will, to discover more and learn more about our current issue. I saw it as a means of learning if I'm the problem and was very much ready to accept that. It turns out it wasn't the case. 6 years of misery sound awful. I would very much hate that. OP on if this started when the swinging ended. Finally, a comment on the swinging topic with actual insight. You're absolutely right about the fact that the swinging experience had changes that will impact our marriage and lives forever. For example, the best thing swinging taught us, even above sexual exploration, was the level of transparent and open communication it requires. We would literally have mental orgasms having dialogue with such intentionality. We implemented that in all our lives and areas including parenting with our children. She even agrees that we're thankful for that takeaway from our swinging. Honestly, I cannot stress it enough with people here. Yes, we explored swinging, however it was actually a positive experience. When we decided to stop, it was because it felt natural and organic to just do so. In fact, we met with that couple who we meshed super well with the night before. We actually enjoyed the actual friendship and even spent time as vanilla friends. So it wasn't because of something negative. Wife mentioned that it certainly wasn't any better and since she's not enjoying the sex we both agreed there's no point to this. I agreed and we moved on and we're still friends with those people because it's great. All that said, I know, more often than not, swinging causes massive issues. However, this was something we explored in pursuit of a solution to an issue that was present way before. I think of it as taking a practical approach to trying to solve the problem. Update 1. I wanted to give you guys an update of how the therapy session with my wife went this week. Not sure if this is helpful or not, but I took many of the responses, comments, suggestions from my initial post and put together some things I wanted to discuss with our couples therapist to help us navigate some of the core issues that may be affecting this situation. One of the main things that is the buzzword of this has been the term resentment, and it has been really eating me up inside knowing my wife keeps telling me she doesn't know why she's resentful or doesn't know why this is affecting her emotionally, mentally. I brought this up with our therapist once again and resurfaced the conversation about being married for so long, 15 years, and being together since we were 14 years old. Our long history of growing up and how having children when she was 19 years old, me 20, significantly changed the trajectory of our lives. We experienced severe poverty and many hardships in the process and we essentially had zero social life for the past 10 years because we were so busy raising babies, 2 kids now ages 12 and 14. She followed up with tons of questions directly, mostly from my wife about her feelings towards this and 90% of the responses were very our kids focused. It definitely felt like she was afraid of saying yes it sucked, because she would feel guilt or shame because it would imply she regrets the kids. I mentioned this in the session and the therapist encouraged her to look at this outside of the lens of being a mother and to try to view it a bit more selfishly and individually, and it was very eye-opening. My wife mentioned that she was very frustrated with the fact that we did miss out on many things in life. She also was very clear in saying I do not think I missed out on other partners or dating or partying, but I certainly lost all my friends. This was huge because one of the big pieces that has caused a strain in our lives is how siloed and isolated we've been, again busy raising kids. I followed up by reminding her that it's important to have good friends and to make time for herself and her friendships. For the past 3+ years, We've had multiple conversations about friends and how it is important to have them in life. Especially when you have similar peers that can help in many areas of life that perhaps we have no experience navigating, and even simply for enjoyment. It has always been something my wife avoids. Even though she's always been someone who needs that external stimuli. The main reason for her not investing in friends or even herself has always been the kids. Like I mentioned earlier in this post, 90% of the answers have to relate to the kids to some degree. At this point in our session, I started to feel like there was a common denominator, the kids, in most of the frustrations and problems she was experiencing. So I simply asked her, "Do you think you may be upset at me because I'm responsible for these kids in the sense that I got you pregnant so young?" I wasn't ready, but she said that she was upset at me for that. She also followed up with the fact that she knows that's unreasonable because it takes two to tango. I did feel like it was progress because it kind of gave us something to work on and help alleviate some of these burdens, so we agreed to invest more time in nurturing good friendships both together and individually. Towards the end of the session, we began to discuss what actionable items we would take from this session. At this point, it was still all very ambiguous and blurry as to what the outcomes were. I was very direct and very forward in asking my wife what her plan is moving forward. Note, I had decided prior to the session that should my wife say the same thing about being a co-parenting roommate, that I would take the 180 approach and essentially do me. She started basically saying the same thing, that she doesn't have any desire to be intimate or sexual with me as of now, and that she loves me immensely and she feels bad for not being there for me, as mentioned in my first post. I also brought up the brief swinging that happened, to which for the 50th time said it wasn't a problem. I agree with her on this. This was something that was a mechanical approach for a solution to a problem that was very much in existence when we tried this. We, both, really have no issue with this. We know it happened, we tried it and mutually stopped and turned the page. I also brought up other life events that may cause resentment, and really we ended up not getting anywhere else as far as the root for resentment, which was discouraging. I then basically expressed to my wife that I will not be okay with that arrangement. I told her that I've really done everything I can and that this issue really has reached a point where it has nothing to do with me or requires me to do anything that I'm currently not doing. I was very direct and said that I will not be accepting this dynamic and that I need to be with someone who is actively involved in our marriage, works towards resolutions, and is very much interested in maintaining an active intimacy and sexual relationship. I expressed how I'm not going to be a convenience, and that there was more to life than being roommates and co-parents. I made sure she knows I love her dearly and that I do want this to work for the better. I also told her that I'm fully committed to this marriage so long as she is as well, and that if she wasn't, it's okay. However, I will not be a part of something where these efforts are not reciprocated. I told her I have no plans of leaving, and I do not want a divorce. However, I made it clear that if this dynamic continues, that divorce will be the only outcome. Of course, tears were involved and it was a very bleak and sad ending to the session. Still nothing was said, and I walked out very discouraged and very determined to start working on the 180 as soon as we left the room. It's painful and very difficult because much of the 180 requires you to be very short and cold and transactional. The saddest part is realizing, this dynamic already is very cold and transactional. Here's where it gets very interesting. I started working on implementing many of the 180 recommendations that same day. I mentioned to my wife that, hey, things are going to be a bit different moving forward. I'm going to honor her roommate co-parent dynamic without reproach, and that it should be no mistake that I'm not happy here and I am never going to be okay with it, but I am done working on it if she wasn't going to work on it. She agreed and went to bed. I started to build distance and started to basically focus on myself. Very short and transactional. She asked for help on some of her personal things, to which I declined, and it really shocked her. She was upset, saying I was being petulant. I explained to her that she is now fully in charge of her own life and her own issues. We didn't talk all day and we only spoke when necessary. Few days I keep this going and she's very visibly upset and stressed. I typically react to that with gestures of help or nurturing, but I didn't this time. That night she was crying, telling me she's stressed and she thinks something is wrong with me because I'm indifferent. I simply listened, then I told her that this is the dynamic she proposed and that I'm simply, much like her, taking care of myself and focusing on myself. I'm not going to lie. It has been very hard to be cold and distant because, as I mentioned before, I love her and I wish I could hold her and love on her. However, I know this is somewhat manipulative in a way, just to get her way and still keep me in the friend zone. So I've been staying the course. We're now going on a week of this 180 and let's just say, there has been many changes on her side. I think she is starting to realize there is more to me than just friends and co-parenting. I sent her a text a few days ago essentially itemizing bills and separating the financial responsibilities 50-50ths, and she lost her shit. She basically told me it was out of left field, to which I responded, hey, Friends go in 50/50ths, and as your friend I expect nothing less. This was very eye-opening because it gave me a glimpse of how I'm really taken for granted and how her level of comfort and convenience at my expense is really overlooked. I pushed through anyway and basically told her that this is the new dynamic she asked for and that it's still a bargain, because she would have to be 100% if she was on her own. I'll wrap up with this. While the 180 has been working in many different areas, I am still very much sad about the overall situation. There have been many eye-opening statements being said and realization that have not been pleasant to encounter. It has also sparked new energy and new efforts on her side as well. She's definitely seeking to talk to me more often, and while it's hard to turn down, I hope if things improve this continues to happen. I've also noticed that she's making more time for herself aside from being a mom, which is huge because she pretty much neglected herself for years. I'm very pleased seeing her be more herself. My hope is that as we work on ourselves, the marriage improves. There really is no telling at this point where this will go. We are very much cordial and amicable even to this day, and that's a very good sign. Boundaries are set and expectations are very clear, and I feel that no matter the outcome, I will be at peace with everything that has been done. We're still going to continue the couples therapist until we either rekindle our marriage or end up in divorce. I feel like having this unbiased third party really helps as a witness and as a guide through this. No matter what, I will always love my wife. However, I will not participate in a sexless, intimacy-less marriage because we both deserve better. Thank you all for all the kind words and recommendations and feedback. This will be my last post on this topic, and I wish you all the best. TLDR. My wife friend-zoned me once to just co-parent at my expense, but I started the 180 method to try and find a solution because she doesn't want to work on us, which seems to be working on getting her out of her rut and helping me discover more about how she feels. Also, therapy is paramount and highly recommended to all couples. Relevant comments. Comment 1. So, I'm going to assume that your wife has a lucrative job and you are both going 50/50ths on childcare, as you both work and share children. Because otherwise, this approach is just plain financially abusive, and if you're planning on saying I won't pay the bills unless you have sex with me, sexually abusive as well. Assuming that is the case and you aren't a total POS, I'm actually interested in how this works out for you. I feel like I'm in an unstated, similar situation. We both work and have blended finances, but we don't go to bed together or eat together, have barely any intimacy, a kiss or two, hugs every couple days, and spend maybe 8 hours a week together, just the three of us, him, me, and the toddler. Even less, just the two of us, maybe 3 hours a week. Otherwise, he is on his game, or out playing sports, watching YouTube, or whatever else he does. It barely feels like a friend situation, let alone a marriage. I'm curious how she handles it. As the spouse that presumably was pulling away first, I hope you keep us updated. OP, yes, we both have degrees, good careers, and while I make significantly more money, her salary is very proficient and above average. The 50/50ths was not to cripple nor hurt her financially, that is cruel, but mostly to send a message on what a roommate dynamic looks like in the real world. I really dislike how people immediately jump to conclusions about the finances as a way of manipulating her. It's not the case at all. Plenty of money left over after bills. However, 50/50ths means she has less whatever money, and the understanding that roommates share everything equally. Prior to this 180 approach, we did everything together and with our kids. We always saw ourselves as a unit that does things together. Both alone and with the kids too. That's changed now, where I'm choosing to focus on more independent types of pastimes and focus. That is what has sparked her reaction and realization of there's more than just roommates here. Comment 2. How does one dump half of the household expenses on the other person if they share a bank account? Or are your finances kept separately? Just curious how this would work if applied to my life. OP, excellent question. We shared everything. The proposed 50/50ths was suggesting we place the necessary amount to pay bills in the same account, and any leftover money can be deposited to a new account. I think this is why she was very upset. She felt a huge loss of control knowing she won't be able to monitor my finances. Also, she felt a huge loss in her leftover money with this arrangement and saw that I would keep significantly more of my own. This is still being worked out because I think she is calling my bluff here, but my plan is to notify her next week as I modify my direct deposit and open a new account. It will definitely be more real there. To be clear, for all the trolls here, yes, she will have less leftover money after responsibilities, and it's still enough to live on. Example, for reference. Assume I make $3,000 a month, she makes $1,000 a month. Responsibilities are $1,000 a month. So she'd contribute $500 and I would contribute $500. where before she would contribute only $250. This is the last comment I'll add regarding money and finances. She's fine and she's not hurting. I promise when asked what if she leaves for another man. Interesting. She has no shortage of men hitting on her and we're by no means jealous people. So I've witnessed this multiple times and her reactions are somewhat indifferent. I will say, if another man for her was the answer, she'd tell me or she'd have some inkling maybe. There's no telling, but I think the problem is deeper than superficial attention from a different person. You might be right, and if this is the case, so be it. However, I'll live with peace knowing I left no stone left unturned. Crazy thought, I know I would be disappointed and saddened if she did leave for another man that would accept the bare minimum. But I'd also feel a peace knowing it's not all my fault. I know I'm responsible in some way to some degree. That's just marriage. I know sadness and depression will creep but we'll both overcome, but if this does happen at least there will be clear reasons and clarity as to why it did. Also, I know for a fact that she wouldn't cheat. We're both very blunt, open and transparent. She would definitely tell me that she wants to step out on our marriage before it actually happens. As would I. We owe ourselves this respect for each other and we actively practice it. New update. I debated for a long time on whether to submit an update on this matter. A few significant changes have taken place and I felt it would be good to not only share with you, but also to allow myself to process all of this in a uniform way. We're now almost 9 weeks in on the 180 method I mentioned I was starting and it started to render some positive reactions from my wife. I explained in the previous post that she started to notice things that she previously took for granted, started to ask more about my whereabouts and also started to notice I would go out with the kids more often without her and she started to invite herself, to which I didn't decline. So much has changed and it has changed for what seems to be for the better. This past Memorial Day weekend, my wife asked me if I wanted to go out for coffee because she wanted to talk to me about something. This was huge, because I can't recall the last time my wife asked to talk to me about something important. I must admit, I was very nervous and worried about what this could be about and my mind was racing with the plethora of scenarios of what it could possibly be. Of course I agreed and we took some time away from the kids to have this conversation at a local coffee shop. The talk was very constructive in nature. There was a ton of insightful information about herself that helped me further understand where she is in life both emotionally and mentally. We summarized what the core issues we are encountering are and she asked me for help. This is new and I cannot tell you how excited I was to hear something so sincere coming from my wife who for the last 2+ years has been absent. So after she was through sharing all her thoughts, I proposed a plan that I felt was right for us. This is something that I had been thinking about these last few weeks and I was planning on bringing this up in a few months if I noticed that things were not changing for the better. This date felt like the right place to share it since it goes hand in hand with what she talked about, and it also relates to the help she was asking me for. I started by first acknowledging her feelings and her concerns. I told her they are valid and how she feels is personal to her and that I care that she feels this way because I don't like the thought of her being sad or depressed. I also told her that my goal still is and will always be for us to reconcile and be the happily ever after we vowed to be for each other and that my love for her is as strong, if not stronger, as it was the day we said I do. I continued the conversation by telling her how I felt about the whole situation, read my previous posts for details, and how it affects me every day. I also clarified some things that she mentioned she was feeling because I have been very distant and monotone, transactional, lately. I explained to her that I was very much trying to protect my feelings and emotions from the rejection and neglect and that it wasn't personal. It was simply me safeguarding myself because I cannot control her, I can only control myself. This was a perfect segue way to the core of this approach, which is focused on self-accountability. I told her that for the longest time I was always working hard to make her happy and do things that I knew she enjoyed or wanted. However, I was always met with rejection and disappointment which caused a load of stress on me. I explained to her that I had to make a change for myself. After all, I can only control myself and make the changes that I want for myself. I mentioned how I was starting to implement new habits and routines that help edify me all while still executing all of our shared responsibilities including parenting, finances, and daily living activities. I explained that the goal is to continue to improve myself both as a husband and father, learn more, and be healthier, among other things. She was very receptive to this. She told me that she sees what I'm doing and that she is proud of the changes she has seen. She also told me how she's starting to realize that she feels left behind and that much of the things that have affected her negatively are her own fault. Toward the end of the conversation, which was about 3 hours, there was a very high spirit of reconciliation in the room. I told her that my goal is to ultimately make this work, however I was very clear that I was not going to live under the current circumstances. I told her that my heart wants her to be happy even if it means elsewhere and that I also deserve to be happy myself. I also explained that I do not want our children to grow up thinking this was okay or normal because they deserve better as well. She told me she doesn't either. She told me she doesn't know what to do, to which I replied, let's set some clear goals. However, the goals will be for ourselves, not for each other. So here is what we established. We are in charge of our own happiness. The key here is that she's not responsible for making me happy, and vice versa. We both need to seek what that personal plan looks like individually. Also, we're both encouraged to include each other in taking those steps if we want, but it is not required. We are in control of our own individual lives and our own journey. This means we're both responsible for finding the resources necessary to grow, change and heal. We can definitely help one another when help is requested. However, unsolicited advice or help will not be rendered. We are responsible for communicating. This ensures nothing is left unsaid. If it was never brought up or discussed, it never happened. We're not mind readers and we need to take ownership when we fail to communicate. Make a list of needs and wants. This gives us both clear directions about meeting each other's needs. This also gives us a choice as to what we choose to do, compromise on, or decline to do. This list also will not serve as a checklist for accountability. We made it clear we would not be bringing this list up for the purpose of arguing. And it was up to the other person to use the list as a tool for growth, transparency or clarification. We concluded that it was up to us to decide if we will be happy doing these things for ourselves because we care, not to simply check a box. This was very important in order to establish long-term habits and not short-term band-aids, because you cannot make someone change or do something they don't believe is important. Established a deadline, Memorial Day 2025. At the end of the conversation, we concluded by setting Memorial Day 2025 as a hard stop to evaluate our lives and our progress. We agreed we would do this with the clear understanding that we will independently decide if we are happy here. If we determine we aren't happy, we will be getting a divorce. We would also both assume full responsibility for what happened should we get divorced. For example, if needs were not met, it would mean my partner chose not to meet them. This places full responsibility on each other in all areas. The whole process requires that if needs were not met, the next question should be, did we do everything to address this issue? If yes, then we will have a clear conscience of what transpired and know we left no stone unturned. If, however, we didn't do everything to address the issue, it will mean the issue was not important enough for you or didn't care to meet those needs. This goes both ways in all areas, like everything else. We established that the main motivator for change should be ourselves, and that if we did that, we would in turn begin to see beneficial changes towards each other. The goal is to ensure that everything we are doing for one another to meet each other's needs is being done because we want to do it for our spouse, not because she asked. Instead, it was done because I know it makes him/her happy and I love seeing them happy. I felt it was important to mention to her that we are no longer required to do anything for each other. It is now more of a I want to do these things for each other. Ultimately, I felt the conversation was very positive and productive. Many tears were shed and lots of hugging ensued. I know this doesn't mean or guarantee anything, however, this has never happened before and I can honestly attribute it to the 180 method. I cannot give any more insight on this method other than it's the only thing I did differently and something new happened for what seems to be better. I've decided I will conclude and will refrain from this method moving forward as the plan now has changed. I'm planning to devote myself entirely to not only myself and my growth but to also work on her needs and wants because I want her to be happy by my side. She said and agreed she would do the same for herself. We agreed we would help and build each other wherever we request for it and that we will be approaching this as a team. As of today, some of the biggest changes I have noticed are her commitment to therapy and mental health. She is taking some antidepressants that are helping her. She is also more confident and in a far better mood more frequently. We have started to explore more ways of intimacy in multiple areas such as physical touch and words of affirmation. Sex is starting to make an appearance, which is exciting. Side note, sex was very awkward to start when you've been abstinent for so long. We've also started to work out together, which is great, and have lost weight, which is also very exciting. Overall, communication has improved, and I cannot wait to see where this leads. I hope this helps someone out there. I'm still very much interested in your feedback and thoughts on this. You all have been a huge help in giving me hope and insight into this tough journey. Trolls aside, many of you have really been instrumental in my journey both emotionally and mentally. I will not be providing any more updates until Memorial Day next year. I think it's now time to keep focusing on myself and start working on all the new opportunities that hopefully will arise with my wife. I wish you all the best in life and your relationships with those you love. TLDR, Our marriage took a turn for the better after the 180 method, and we're now working on ourselves, each other, and rekindling our marriage. We also set a deadline for next year to either remain together or get divorced. I have face blindness, and my BF's tests are overwhelming. How can I clearly communicate that this behavior is hurtful and unacceptable? Hi y'all, sorry for posting this. If it's not okay, I can delete it. I've been with my BF for almost a year now. I love him dearly, and he loves me too, I'm guessing, but there's one thing that's causing a lot of issues for us. I suffer from prosopagnosia, face blindness, which means it's really hard for me to recognize people's faces. I usually go by other characteristics to put a name to a person, like hairstyle, facial hair, marks, skin colors, accessories, etc., but it's still really tough. It's caused me severe anxiety and other mental health struggles. I'm lucky to have wonderful people around me though, who are aware and try to help. They'll introduce themselves when we start talking, wear something they know I've linked to them, or whatever. Usually my BF does this too, but sometimes he likes to test me and it's incredibly stressful. He shaved off his beard once, a few times he wore a completely different style of clothing, or changed his hairstyle, all without warning me. In those moments he won't tell me who he is, or say someone else's name, just to see if I'll figure out it's him. He'll make jokes saying he'll try to switch with one of his friends and see if I'll stay loyal. I usually do realize it's him, but it causes me a lot of anxiety. We've had big fights on this. He says he's allowed to change his look. I'm not a cartoon character. I ask him to warn me. Don't get me wrong, he cares about me, but I don't think he gets how stressful it is. How do I make it clear? We have a lot of great times together, there's just this bump. Update. It's hard to imagine I made this post 19 hours ago and now I'm in the middle of breaking up with him. I'm very tired, so I'm going to keep this short. I went to talk to him, showed him this and told him he can't do it anymore. The conversation was a lot. First he was angry I made this post, then he was angry I was taking it all so serious. Lots of apologies and so on. He again said he was just trying to make a tough situation more light. I said it's too much. He said I can't take a joke and I need to let him be him. That he always tells me when he's been joking, and if he was really keen on hurting me he'd just do things and not tell me, so his telling proves he cares. That one made me feel uncomfortable. At one point he said he just wanted to test if it was real, because I could just be using it as an excuse to do anything. I left after that cause we were just going in circles. There was a lot of me making an issue of one small thing. I'm exhausted. He's still blowing up my phone with love and apologies, but you guys made me realize a lot. Thanks, really. I'm trying to stay rational about it, but it's hard because I do care about him a lot. I'm gonna get a few hours of sleep. Thank you again. Relevant comments. Comment 1. He is messing with your safety. Does he not realize that? OP. I don't think he realizes how confusing it all is. There was a moment he did the opposite, acting all weirded out when I thanked him for a nice date, saying it wasn't him, and though I knew it was, I still started to doubt myself. He did say it was a joke soon after, but it caused such a panic. He hasn't done it again, but it took me a long time to feel comfortable again. Comment 2. Making someone feel unsafe is not a joke. Gaslighting someone you care about is not a joke. Comment 3. Holy smokes, that's terrifying. Not to recognize a familiar face with a major change like that. That is like nightmare fuel. That your BF does it to you, multiple times on purpose, is scary. I don't know if there is a way you can explain it to him if he doesn't get it. It seems he enjoys your panic. Which is not a good thing for a partner. If this was my partner I would get a tattoo or something. And I don't have any. OP, my dad actually got a tattoo on his arm for me, which is a great comfort. I hadn't realized how messed up everything is, until reading all these replies. Comment 4. Your boyfriend is basically abusing you in emotional situations. He thinks it's hilarious you struggle and get severe anxiety, which isn't normal, nor does it mean he cares about you. This is a huge red flag. OP, abuse is a really big word, but I do agree it's not okay. I'm seeing him soon, we'll see how it goes. Update 1. Hi y'all, hope it's okay. I will post a little update. Things went batshit crazy. A lot has happened in the last days. I'm really grateful to you all, honestly. I wasn't aware about the real meaning of his pranks, and what it said about him and our relationship. I went to talk to him the same evening I made that post, with the intention of making clear he can't pull all that anymore. The conversation escalated. We talked for hours into the night and every day since. There's been a lot of messages. He got angry about the Reddit post I made. I showed him. Angry at you guys. Angry that I couldn't take a joke and listen to strangers. Said things like he in the beginning didn't believe I actually suffered from it, and would use it as an excuse to cheat on him. That now he does believe, but, due to bad breakups in the past, he has a hard time trusting I won't use it as an excuse regardless. Said he was joking about it because he wanted to make a tough situation lighter and that's just his sense of humor. That if I loved him, I'd accept that. When I made it clear I was done, it got even worse. He began apologizing a lot. Said he didn't realize it was such a big thing for me. Again, didn't make any sense with all said before. In the same breath he said that he at least told me. To the people who thought he actually had planned to trick me by using one of his friends, I think y'all may be very right. To be honest, I was done. I do care about him a lot. Can't just shut that off, but it's never going to work. There's been many messages / calls / etc. He dropped some vague hints that sometimes he pulled pranks I wasn't aware of. I don't know if that is true, or he's just in a bad place right now. He also came to my place to apologize again. But I suspect he didn't expect I'd immediately recognize him, as he didn't apologize till I said his name. He's not evil, but just very messed up. I blocked him everywhere, told him not to show up anymore and that a friend would give him his stuff. I'm going to delete this account soon, but I wanted to thank you guys for helping me realize it. I genuinely don't think I would have. I'm heartbroken, but a bit relieved as well. Thanks for all the support and kindness. Relevant comments. Comment 1. I'm glad you broke up. Someone who loves you shouldn't ever do that to you. Just curious about your condition. Do you also have issues with recognizing voices as well as faces? I can only imagine how hard it must be to deal with. OP, actually voices are one of the traits I go by to recognize someone. Voices, posture, tattoos, hairstyle, and so on. Thank you loads. Update 2. This is probably a bit stupid, but that boy has got me questioning my own mind. Either way, sorry if this is a bother. I broke up with my BF a few weeks ago. I had realized, in part thanks to Reddit, that some of his behavior was absolutely not okay, and when I tried to talk to him the conversation escalated to me breaking up with him. I have a pretty severe case of face blindness, prosopagnosia. It means I can't remember people's faces and go by other characteristics to try and put a name to someone. Voice, hairstyle, posture, etc. People around me know and introduce themselves when we meet and other things to make it easier. I have a lot of anxiety because of it. He used to try and test me, which gave me a lot of stress. Changed up his look without warning to see if I knew it was him, and a lot more. He called it pranks. He is a jokester. So we broke up. It's been a lot. He'd been calling or messaging non-stop with both apologies and non-apologies, till I blocked him. In moments of a lot of emotion I said things like I never wanted to see him again, and he'd reply that he was hurt, that I wouldn't even know if it was him and I was lucky he wouldn't do it. Made me feel icky. He contacted me again yesterday, through a new account, saying he just wants one more face-to-face conversation, if only to give him his stuff that is still at my place and get some closure so we can both move on. I said my plan was to get a mutual friend to bring it over to him. He was hurt. He did seem a lot more calm than before and told me we were together for a year, he just wanted one conversation after I suddenly broke things off. That he had some time to process now, etc., and that he doesn't understand how he suddenly, after a year of loving each other, became so evil I couldn't have one chat with him. But I don't feel good about it. My gut is telling me this will not be a good conversation. My worst fears are telling me he might play a trick to prove some point. Beta if I don't reply anymore, just say no. Edit, I didn't expect all these replies. I hope it's okay to respond like this. Thank you all, really. I think I knew already but somehow started to doubt myself. The past weeks have been a lot. I really appreciate and need these words. I'm ready for all of this to be over and done with. Also just a little thank you in general. Reddit's been a wonderful community and it's helped me a lot. Update 3. It's been a wee bit, and since I'm still getting messages about this, I thought I'd just give one big update for this. So more than a month ago I broke up with my BF because he kept pulling pranks involving my face blindness. I can't recognize faces and am dependent on other aspects to recognize someone, and even then it's still confusing. After that he'd been bugging me that he wanted to meet up, so we could get some closure. My gut was telling me not to, but I felt guilty. With you guys' advice, and my own gut feeling, in mind, I decided not to go. I asked a friend Roger, to go bring him his stuff and kept him blocked, including blocking the new accounts he'd made. Roger came back with a letter from him, to me. The letter in itself was apologetic. He even said he was grateful for our time together and took full responsibility. It ended with him saying he'd respect it if I chose not to reply or message. Honestly, a lot of very respectful words. I still decided not to get in touch. Still trying to get over the breakup myself. But I did appreciate it, till I found out he wasn't letting go like he said. Roger and some other mutual friends let me know he was asking them about me. A lot, if I had read the letter, if I was seeing someone else, already. And so on. Couple of days ago he showed up at my place. He was clearly not sober and upset. He just seemed so broken, so I, stupidly, let him in. For a while he was just being miserably nice, while I got him water and stuff. But the more sober, the more angry he got. At that point I messaged basically everyone I knew to come. I didn't think he'd hurt me, but I didn't feel comfortable being alone with him regardless. Among the many accusations of me not even having the decency to reply, that I clearly never cared about him and that I was a horrendous person, he told me I cheated on him and didn't even know it. So how could I blame him for not trusting me? I'm not gonna lie, I was trying to stay calm but failed. And I know I should have not lost my cool. I screamed at him, asked him what he was talking about. Apparently on a night out with him and others, he asked his friend Mike, who knows of my face blindness and has similar characteristics as my ex, apart from a different voice and smell, to swap out with him and kissed me. And I didn't know. I don't know if he's lying or not. But knowing I was drinking and in a crowded loud room, I know it's a possibility. Especially since Mike tried to kiss me another time, though then I immediately realized it was him and lost my shit at him. When I told my then BF, he was more angry than I had ever seen him, so IDK if the time was a plan as well or not. Either way Mike is a disgusting human. I know it's just a kiss, but it did make me sick to my stomach just thinking about how they might have played me. I told him to get out, he didn't. Luckily it didn't take long for some people to arrive and get him out. I'm endlessly grateful for the people I have around me. I'm staying at my parents' place now, took a break from work and am looking into therapy. My mom and dad, who got a tattoo years ago just so I would never doubt it's him, are treating me like a princess and reminding me of the kindness people deserve. Haven't looked into a restraining order, but might if it continues. Thanks to you all for helping me see what's right in this situation. Reddit has been a wonderful community I am very grateful for. I probably won't update anymore, as this is over and done with. But I'm glad I got to pour my heart out to y'all. Update 4. We broke up nearly 3 months ago. It wasn't pretty. There were a lot of things not right between us. Among other things, he kept joking with the fact that I have a severe case of face blindness. I wasn't perfect in this relationship either BTW, not trying to make him the villain. Usually I go by voice, obvious traits and so on. I'm lucky enough to have a lot of wonderful people around me who'll introduce themselves once we start talking, warn me if they change their looks or even wear something that'll help me, like my dad who got a tattoo just for me. But it's still hard and gives me so much anxiety. So maybe I'm imagining it all? I stayed with my parents and we cousins for a while after the breakup, but since I'm home, I feel like he's still around. The first time, I went to a club with a friend and her BF, started dancing with a guy and went outside with him to get some air. The moment we stepped outside and I heard his voice, I knew it was him. I was so sure. I freaked, went inside again and left with my friend. I messaged him later and he denied it vehemently, telling me he was not even near there. That we can meet up and talk if I want. My friend says she's not sure, she was off with her BF and didn't see him. So maybe I'm wrong. My gut says it was him, but I can't trust my brain with these things. There's been more incidents like this since. If I go out, sometimes I just feel like he's there. Like I'll see a guy focused on me and will know it's him, but he'll deny it. Or someone will come to my job and I'll recognize the voice, but he responds so confused and I'll feel like a crazy person making a scene, so I just quietly give him what he needs. I'll go to the grocery store and a guy will suddenly be next to me. He won't even say anything to me, but the smell traits tell me it's him. But then later he denies it all. It's not every day, or something. Once a week, maybe not even that. But it's enough to make me feel so on edge. The thing is, I could be wrong. Maybe it was never him. I don't go out a lot anymore, unless I'm with someone. I keep my phone in my hand in hopes of snapping a picture to show to my friends. Looking into how to get a camera. I don't know what else to do really. I'm afraid if I talk to others about it, they'll simply dismiss it. At the same time he's still messaging me, just as kindly as when we first started dating. He says he's worried about me, that he wants to help. And I just feel like I'm going crazy. Maybe I am. Update 5. I have a quite severe case of face blindness, but have my own ways to get around, like all of us. But still, I can never be completely sure who's in front of me until they confirm it. I'm sure you know the feeling. Now I have had wonderful people in my life who make it so much easier for me. But have you had people who don't do that? My previous BF messed with me sometimes, and I sometimes worry he might still be. But it's hard to be sure, when I can't trust what I see. Sometimes I'm so sure it's him, but he'll deny it and I can never convince myself to be 100% certain of what I saw. Do you have any things you did to deal with people who messed with you? Or didn't you take your prosopagnosia seriously? New update. First, thanks to the mods for allowing me to post this update. I don't know if anyone will see this, but I keep getting messages about this, very kind ones, for which I'm grateful, and thought I'd just do a wee update. I'm not in the best place mentally, so I will keep this short. This will also be my last one, as Liv taken plenty of your time as is and don't really know what to do with the attention, though I'm extremely appreciative of all the support and advice. I posted here a while ago about how I wasn't sure if my ex was messing with me, and my face blindness, or if I was just being paranoid. I now know it's both. I really did feel like a crazy person. The day I made the post, I broke off contact with him again. I got a few more messages from him, all kind and concerned-ish. Even some mutual friends, and one girl I barely know, reached out saying they were worried because of what my ex told them. But here's the thing, I did manage to subtly make two videos, 2 different times, in which my parents could clearly see him. Honestly, I was an absolute mess. Since then I've also been staying with my parents again and took a break from work. We're trying to look into a restraining order, but it's not that easy. There's some redemption though. A friend did what I didn't have the balls to do and completely exposed him. Got some very angry messages from my ex after, in which he, among other things, said he just happened to be in the same place, but now I'm making him out to be some kind of stalker because of my insecurities. Doesn't explain why he didn't just say it was him though. Or how it happened at least twice in less than 2 weeks. That's where we're at right now. I wish I could tell you more. I'm kind of stuck right now. I have no proof about the previous times. Even more so, there's been moments in the past weeks I also thought it was him, and it wasn't. Either confirmed by video, or because I wasn't alone. Then there's been some times in the last weeks where I didn't manage to get any recording, photo. Though I am relieved to have some answers, I'm also heartbroken. I don't know how to process knowing there's people that'll abuse my flaws in this way. I feel incredibly paranoid and it's exhausting. I'm looking into moving away. At the same time, I'm hopeful this is the end of it, that him getting exposed will be the end of this. Multiple people have told him to back off and leave me alone. I'm happy to be home with my parents for now. I'm safe, thanks for all the advice. Relevant comments. Commenter, dude is an abusive psycho. Put him on blast. He has serious mental problems. OP, I'm gonna sound like an absolute idiot, but I still often feel conflicted about it. I wish he'd just admit to everything. There's a lot of things that feel uncertain and I'm having a hard time letting those go. Like, I only have proof about those 2 times. What if he's right and it was only those 2? Still wouldn't be okay, but IDK, either way, just hope it all ends here.